Chapter 601. Let go of me. No, let go of her. If you want to kill someone, then kill me. Let her go. Zhuai Feng steeled his heart and loudly said. He knew that his silver whip was made of gold and silver threads mixed with a special metal, so it was very tough. Even if he used his internal energy, it would not break. Since he couldn't escape, he would just die. He did not know where this black-clothed man in front of him had come from. Losing his life like this, it was truly unjust. Say, Z, are you an idiot brat? You can even say this kind of stupid words? Namu Qo couldn't help shaking his head at him. He pulled Chen Ning over and pointed at Zhuai Feng as he said, You like this kind of idiot? Do you think he's an idiot? Zhuai Feng was filled with rage as the veins on his forehead popped out. He angrily roared out, Are you even human? Do you know how to speak human words? You're the idiot. You're the idiot. If you're not an idiot, how could you say that kind of thing? Why would I keep you here? I'm not interested in men. I'm not interested in killing you. And I'm not interested in sleeping with you. I'll only tell you one thing. I like her and I want her. If you're not convinced, then fight with me again. Zhuai Feng's face first turned red before turning purple. After he finished speaking, his entire face turned as black as a pot. You really are bold. Do you know who she is? She is... Before he could finish, Chen Ning took a step forward and cut him off. Zhuai Feng, shut up. She turned around and said to Namu Qo, Qo, you've made a mistake. He is not my husband or my lover. He is only my guard. Namu Qo stared into her eyes and said, He is only a guard? You really don't like him? Of course I don't like him. I'm this smart, and he's this stupid. How could I like him? Chen Ning gave a cold smile to Zhuai Feng. Zhuai Feng's face turned green. Not bad, not bad. This kind of greenhorn, this kind of dumb brat, he doesn't have the qualifications to be your guard. Does this mean you're willing to be with me? He looked at her. She revealed a faint smile. There's nothing bad about being with you. Your singing is very good, and your looks are also not bad. When Namu Qo heard this, he couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Zhuai Feng was so angry that his body trembled. He stared at Chen Ning, not daring to believe that this was the girl the emperor liked. She was actually smiling at the man who kidnapped her. He was even intimately calling him, Qo. I'll pay. He shouted with all his might, Shun, you're shameless. You've let down the emperor. He abruptly shut his mouth. Chen Ning coldly looked at him. I can do whatever I want. What does that have to do with you? Qo, if he dares to curse me again, then use mud to block his mouth. Namu Qo laughed even more happily, his eyes sparkling. Ha, good. Since he has nothing to do with you, I'll let him go. Chun him. He chun. She. Chun chun god he chun he. Chun he chun I chun. Of him he. Hearing the sound of soft footsteps, in the blink of an eye, he had already brought Chen Ning far away. Zhuai Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as his eyes turned blood red. He wished he could chase after them. He used all his strength to pull the silver whip on his body, but he could only hear a zhung-zhung sound, but it did not break at all. Chapter 602. With no other choice, he could only curse loudly. Suddenly, he heard the sound of wind, like leaves falling to the ground. He knew that someone had come, but he thought that Namu Qo had come back because of his cursing. Bastard, bastard. Let go of father if you have the guts. Fight with father again. Father will beat you until your teeth fall to the ground. His cursing suddenly stopped, and his eyes went wide. He looked at the man in front of him in a daze and said in a stuttering voice, Jing, Jing, King Jing, and why are you here? Under the moonlight, Chu Xiaobai's white robe fluttered in the wind. His face was as white as his clothes, making his eyes seem even darker. He did not say a word as he walked beside Zhuai Feng and untied the silver whip binding him. King Jing in, don't worry about this subordinate. Quickly chase. Chase that man. He has taken the princess consort away. Zhuai Feng anxiously shouted. Chu Xiaobai did not say a word. After untying the silver whip, he gave it to Zhuai Feng and stood in place. Did you hear what the subordinate said? There's a man that came out of nowhere that has taken the princess consort away. If we don't save her, she will definitely be. Zhui Feng thought of the way Namu Qiu looked at Chenning. He was a man, so he could clearly see it. That was clearly a hungry wolf, and the princess consort was a helpless and kind little lamb. He stopped and forcefully glared at Chu Xiaobai. If your highness doesn't go save her, this subordinate will go. Zhui Feng stopped. Chu Xiaobai suddenly said. Zhui Feng turned around in a daze and stared at him. Your highness, what are you saying? You don't need to chase. Even if you catch up, you won't be able to save her. Chu Xiaobai calmly looked at him. His voice was calm and his face was calm, without a trace of excitement or anger. Zhui Feng almost suspected that he was looking at another King Jing'an. He was just too calm. Did he not like the princess consort anymore? Your highness, what do you mean? You won't save her, and you won't let this subordinate save her. Do you want the princess consort to be humiliated by that man? Zhui Feng said through gritted teeth. Chu Xiaobai could be ruthless, but he couldn't. He had the emperor's orders, so he had to chase after them no matter what. He began to walk away. Zhui Feng, that person said you were stupid, and he wasn't wrong. You really are stupid and stupid enough. Chu Xiaobai did not stop him, and just spoke in a soft voice from behind him. Your highness, this subordinate has never offended you, right? Is there a need to humiliate this subordinate like this? Zhui Feng suddenly turned around. Zhui Feng, can't you see it? She deliberately left with him. Chu Xiaobai said, so on purpose? Wind Chaser's eyes widened in disbelief. Chu Xiaobai nodded and revealed a faint bitter expression. That's right. Zhui Feng sucked in a cold breath and revealed a pained look. It can't be, right? How will this subordinate explain this to the emperor? This subordinate couldn't possibly tell the emperor that his beloved girl had a change of heart and left with another man, right? In a fit of anger, the emperor would definitely chop off this subordinate's head. The Princess Ai of Chun, princess of King Wang. She is not worthy of His Majesty's deep affection for her. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a pa sound as Chu Xiaobai slapped his face. Chapter 603. If you dare say another bad word about her, this king will hit you again. Chu Xiaobai stared at him and said word for word. Zhui Feng trembled in anger as he shouted, Your Highness, she has a change of heart. She is willing to be with another man, but you're still protecting her like this? You say this subordinate is stupid, but this subordinate thinks you're the real, stupid one. Chu Xiaobai angrily said, Who says she has a change of heart? Who says she is willing? It's what you just said. You wouldn't have immediately forgotten, right? When Chu Xiaobai heard this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He raised his hand, and Zhui Feng immediately dodged, revealing a face of caution. He looked at Zhui Feng and asked in a serious voice, Zhui Feng, do you know why you followed the emperor for so many years, but you've always been a secret guard? Zhui Feng stuck out his chest as he replied, That's because the emperor trusts this subordinate. Chu Xiaobai shook his head and pointed at his temple as he said, It's because you don't understand this place. So even if the emperor wants to give you an important task, he doesn't trust you to do something too important. Zhui Feng said with a dark face, This subordinate is not stupid. This subordinate knows that your highness is calling this subordinate a fool. Aren't you stupid enough? You can't even see such an obvious fact. Do you know who the man that took her away is? How would this subordinate know who he is? This subordinate was sneak attacked by that bastard as soon as I came in. Could it be that your highness knows who he is? Zhui Feng angrily said, Of course I know. He is the East Qin Crown Prince, Namu Qiu. Chu Xiaobai said word for word. Zhui Feng suddenly sucked in a breath, and his eyes went wide as he said, He is the East Qin Crown Prince? He could not see it at all. Namu Qiu spoke very fluently in the West Chu language. He had exchanged several sentences with him, but he could not hear the foreign accent at all. Your Highness, how do you know? Chu Xiaobai couldn't help rolling his eyes at him and snappily saying, Of course I heard it with my ears. Do you think I'm like you, not looking at anything and just foolishly jumping into the wall with my eyes closed? What happened in the end? Did you fall into Namu Qiu's trap? Zhui Feng's face turned red, and he said in a low voice, "How do you know, Your Highness? Didn't you leave at that time?" "I left, but I came back because this king knew that the emperor would not play around with me. So I came back. When I arrived, I just happened to see the East Qin crown prince capturing a big idiot." Chu Xiaobai said with a serious expression. "That's right." Zhou Feng's face turned red to his ears. "Your Highness, don't humiliate this subordinate. Since you came at that time, why didn't you save this subordinate earlier? Could it be that the two of us together couldn't beat that Namu?" "Namu?" Chu Xiaobai patted his shoulder and gave a sigh. "His name is Namu Qo. Remember, it's wrong, not right." "Good. This subordinate will remember." "Namu Qo. Wangya, although his kung fu is high, if we fight him together, we should be able to beat him, right?" "Chun kama phone of kama na and kama china kama 4 phone at phone. Harm her? In this world, she is the only person I will never harm. How could I harm her? Could it be that I am not sad, seeing her being taken away?" Chapter 604. Please forgive this subordinate's bad eyes, but this subordinate does not see any worry on your face. Since Your Highness is not worried about the princess consort's safety, this subordinate will report to the emperor. I believe the emperor will definitely save the princess consort from Namu Bu. No, Namu Qo's hands. After Zhou Feng said this, he did not wait for Chu Xiaobai to speak. With a tap of his right foot, he flew over the wall and headed in the direction of the capital city. He flew out a mile before he heard the sound of clothes fluttering in the wind behind him. Looking back, he saw Chu Xiaobai following behind him, maintaining a distance of 3 steps. "Your Highness, why are you following this subordinate?" Zhou Feng said in a cold voice. "I'm going to see the emperor." Chu Xiaobai had an indifferent and calm expression on his face. "The emperor does not want to see you right now, so you should wait until tomorrow morning to see the emperor." Zhou Feng gave a snort as his heart was filled with disdain towards Chu Xiaobai. That night, Chu Xiaobai's words were very pleasant and moving. Even his heart, made of stone, had been softened by his true feelings. He said that as long as she was happy, it was fine. He would be satisfied and happy. But in the blink of an eye, he had changed into a different person. Just because the person the princess consort liked was not him, but rather the emperor, he allowed the princess consort to be taken away by the foreign prince and did not save her. Was this still a man? He, Zhou Feng, truly had eyes but failed to see, treating this kind of scum as his brother. Zhou Feng's heart was filled with anger. He did not want to say a single word to Chu Xiaobai and did not want to look at him at all. He was looking down on him. "Your Highness, this subordinate has already said that the emperor does not want to see you. Your Highness should not follow this subordinate anymore." Zhou Feng suddenly stopped and coldly looked at Chu Xiaobai. "Whether the emperor wants to see this king or not, it is not up to a secret guard like you to decide." Chu Xiaobai's eyes were cold, and his words were also very cold. "Tell this king, where is the emperor?" "This subordinate does not know," Zhou Feng weakly said. Chu Xiaobai did not say anything. He crossed his hands behind his back and calmly looked at him. Zhou Feng couldn't help secretly grinding his teeth. He knew that in terms of Qinggong, Chu Xiaobai was not inferior to him. It would not be easy for him to throw off this tail. But bring him to see the emperor? He was going to report him to the emperor. This matter of reporting him in front of Chu Xiaobai, how could he have the face to say it? King Jing, and please don't make things difficult for this subordinate. Zhou Feng's heart was filled with anxiety. If he delayed it any longer and the emperor found the East Qin crown prince, it would be too late. If the princess consort was insulted by the East Qin crown prince, what face would Zhou Feng have to see the emperor? He was the emperor's secret guard, and he couldn't even protect a girl from the emperor. He was not even for the emperor. He was have was not want. He was not. This king is not making things difficult for you. You're making things difficult for yourself. Zhou Feng could not understand what Chu Xiaobai was saying. "Your Highness, you know this subordinate's brain is stupid. Can't you say a bit more clearly? You don't want to save the princess consort because she doesn't like you, so you hate her, right? That's why you didn't save him, right?" Zhou Feng was a straightforward person. Whatever he thought in his heart, he would just say it. So, in Zhou Feng's heart, Chu Xiaobai, am this kind of person. Chapter 605. Do you know how painful and uncomfortable it is for me to watch her being taken away by others? You will never know, Zhou Feng, because you are a piece of stone, a piece of wood. You have never understood what emotions are. You are just a puppet that only knows how to follow your master's orders. Chu Xiaobai grabbed the clothes on his chest. It was hard to endure the pain, but his face was still calm. He was in great pain, but he was not willing to let others see it, because he was proud and he did not want to accept anyone's pitiful gaze. He was like a lonely and proud wolf. Once he was injured, he would find a place where no one was and lick his wounds by himself. But Zhou Feng's words were like pouring salt on his wounds. It was like digging out his wounds and forcefully cutting them twice, making him feel even more pain and even more injuries. King Jingyan, this subordinate respects you as his highness. But if you keep insulting this subordinate will not be polite to you. As a secret guard, Zhou Feng hated hearing the words marionette the most. To a loyal secret guard, this was the biggest insult. Not polite. Could it be you are being polite to this king right now? Chu Xiaobai gave a cold laugh as his eyes filled with faint flames of anger. He had no way to vent the anger in his heart, especially when he saw Zhou Feng's annoying face. He just wanted to punch the other side's nose crooked. Oh, without saying another word, he sent a heavy punch at Zhou Feng's nose. Zhou Feng never thought that he would attack like this, and that he would attack so quickly, so he quickly dodged. Although he was not hit in the nose, the wind from the punch brushed past his face, making his cheeks feel pain. It could be seen that Chu Xiaobai had used his true strength in this punch. Your Highness, do you want to teach this subordinate a few martial arts moves? Zhou Feng was also filled with anger. He already looked down on the other side's actions of leaving someone to die, but now he could not suppress the anger in his heart. He was secretly thinking that he would teach him a lesson for the Emperor and take revenge for the Emperor. Less nonsense. Watch this move. Chu Xiaobai charged forward and turned into a white blur. His fists flew out, each punch aimed at Zhou Feng's vital points, not showing any mercy at all. His heart was filled with depression, and he wanted to vent it all with all his moves. In his eyes, the other side was not Zhou Feng, but rather Na Mu Qo. Zhou Feng used his Qin Gong and dodged several dangerous moves. Although he was angry and wanted to teach the other side a lesson, the other side was still his highness. Due to the difference in status, he did not make a move at all. But other than his Qin Gong, his fists, feet, and hidden weapons were all inferior to Chu Xiaobai's. Adding in the fact that he did not fight back, he was at a disadvantage. Finally, he could not dodge in time, and his chin was hit by Chu Xiaobai's fist. Ah, Your Highness, you of. Your Highness, you of attacks. Zhou Feng was in so much pain that tears came out. He gritted his teeth and began a counterattack. The two of them began a fight with a pong, 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 pong sound. Zhou Feng's martial arts were on the same level. After fighting for an hour, there was no clear victor, and both sides had taken quite a few kicks and punches from the other side. Only Zhou Feng remembered the other side's status as a prince. Even if the other side kicked his butt, he was too embarrassed to leave his muddy footprints on Chu Xiaobai's white robes. Chapter 606. I won't fight anymore. I won't fight anymore. This subordinate will admit defeat. Zhou Feng also jumped back. He was so tired that he was gasping for breath and couldn't catch his breath. Chu Xiaobai's body was also covered in sweat. After this hearty fight, the anger in both sides' hearts had disappeared quite a bit. Your Highness, this subordinate still needs to report to the Emperor. If you want to teach this subordinate a lesson, wait until next time. Zhou Feng thought of his mission, and his heart was filled with regret. How could he not care about his priorities and fight with King Jing and for no reason, wasting this much time? No wonder King Jing and Na Mu Qo called him a fool. He really was a fool. He was filled with regret and shame. As he prepared to leave, Chu Xiaobai suddenly grabbed his arm and said in a deep voice, "She will be fine." Who? Who won't be fine? Zhou Feng was stunned, but then he reacted. He turned to look at Chu Xiaobai and said in a stunned voice, "You're saying that the princess consort won't be in danger?" Chu Xiaobai nodded and said, "Yes, she willingly left with Namu Kuo, so she has a way to protect herself. She won't let herself be in danger." Zhou Feng was stunned. He couldn't help digging his ears. "Your Highness, did this subordinate hear wrong?" "You didn't hear wrong," Chu Xiaobai softly said. "After your acupuncture point was sealed by Namu Kuo, I quietly snuck into the back courtyard and hid behind a tree wall. I wanted to find a chance to save her, but I found out that after she found out that the other side was the East Qin Crown Prince, her tone and attitude changed. She wanted to stay by his side." "What? Her heart really changed." Zhou Feng's face fell, and he said in a hateful voice, "Humph, this kind of girl is fickle. Seeing that the East Qin Crown Prince is handsome, has good martial arts, and has a noble identity, her heart changed. She actually completely forgot about the Emperor's kindness to her. Your Highness, this kind of girl is not worth you and the Emperor treating her so well." He suddenly saw Chu Xiaobai's cold and angry eyes look at him, and he swallowed the rest of his words back into his stomach. The slap he had suffered not long ago was still aching, but he steeled his heart and shouted, "Your Highness, even if you kill this subordinate will still say it. She is not a girl worth your love. Just let her and the East Qin Crown Prince be together. This subordinate will tell the Emperor she—" "Zhou Feng, shut up. You can't say a single bad word about her. She is not the kind of person you say she is. She is willing to take the risk to be with the East Qin Crown Prince. She is doing it for our West Chu." Chu Xiaobai couldn't help but blurt out. He wanted to keep this a secret, but he couldn't stand Zhou Feng slandering her like this and belittling her like this. Zhou Feng's chin fell down when he heard this. He tightly knit his brows and said in a slow voice, "Your Highness, you know this subordinate is a stupid person. Can you explain it clearly? What does this matter have to do with our West Chu? What's T2 in 3's competition?" Chu Xiaobai said in a deep voice, "Do you know who our West Chu will send to compete with the East Qin Crown Prince in reading the steels 3 days from now?" Zhou Feng shook his head. "This subordinate doesn't know. Didn't the Emperor ask your Highness to invite an expert to help? Could it be your Highness did not manage to invite one? It's her." Chapter 607. Now that things had reached this point, if Zhou Feng still did not understand what was going on, his wooden head could be cut off and used as a chair. "Her? It's the princess consort?" Zhou Feng's mouth opened wide like a toad's, and his eyes almost popped out. This was simply too unbelievable. He never would have dreamed of it. The so-called knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. You can win 100 battles. Chu Xiaobai softly said. Zhou Feng completely understood this time. He suddenly slapped his forehead and said in a voice of realization, "So it's like this. The princess consort is truly thoughtful. But isn't it too dangerous for her to do this? That Namu, right? No. Namu Kuo clearly has ill intentions towards the princess consort. The princess consort does not know martial arts, and she is a weak girl, falling into the hands of the East Qin Crown Prince. This is bad. This is very bad. This subordinate will immediately report this matter to the Emperor." Zhou Feng broke out in a cold sweat the more he thought about it. He admired Chun Ning's courage, but he was also worried for her. "Your Highness, do you really believe that the princess consort has the ability to protect herself? Are you not worried for her at all?" "I believe in her," Chu Xiaobai firmly said. In this world, he could not be the person she loved the most, but he was the person who understood her the most and the person who believed in her the most. It was because he understood her that he knew that once she made up her mind to do something, she would definitely complete it. Since she had decided to stay by Namu Kuo's side, all he could do was silently help her complete her wish and not obstruct her for his own selfish reasons. Even though his heart had been taken away by her, his chest was empty now, leaving only waves of pain that were more intense than the previous. How could he not be worried? Your Highness. Zhui Feng seemed like he understood something. He opened his mouth and wanted to comfort Chu Xiaobai, but he had no words to say. Then, what do we do now? Do we report this matter to the Emperor? If the Emperor finds out, Zhui Feng awkwardly scratched his head. He was worried that after the Emperor found out, he would run to the guest palace to find the East Qin crown prince. Wouldn't that ruin the princess consort's plan? Just report it as it is. I believe the Emperor will understand her good intentions. The Emperor will understand, Chu Xiaobai softly said. He believed in her taste. The man whom she chose must have the same heart as her. Before, he thought he was that lucky person, but it was too late. He had returned too late. Asterisk as Chu Xiaobai expected, Chen Ning had been deliberately taken away by Namu Qiuo. Ever since she found out that Namu Qiuo was the East Qin crown prince, she thought of a very risky plan. That was, she had to find a way to stay by Namu Qiuo's side. There were still 3 days until the competition, but she knew nothing about the training of instant visual memory. And the only person who could help her learn this method was Namu Qiuo. Her plan was very dangerous because she knew very little about Namu Qiuo. She could only observe his expression, tone of voice, and body language to determine what kind of person he was. He was very aggressive, arrogant, and conceited. Although arrogant, he was also a little naive. He was like a vigorous cheetah, eyeing the prey that he was interested in. Chapter 608. Dealing with Namu Qiuo was like standing on the tip of a knife, causing her to tense up at every moment. She did not know where Namu Qiuo was taking her, but when she was in his embrace this time, she began to feel different. His body was no longer like a block of ice. Rather, he had the body temperature of a normal person. Why did this kind of change happen? Could it be because of the hot spring? She suddenly thought of the first time she saw him. It was at the same time that he suddenly appeared and jumped into the hot spring. But she did not have time to think about it. Namu Qiuo stopped and took off the cloak covering her body, putting her down. Her eyes suddenly lit up. What is this place? She raised her eyes and looked around. This was a very beautifully decorated room. There was a thick wool carpet on the floor that was soft and warm to step on. There was a crystal bead curtain in front of her, and there were exquisite copper lamps on the wall. When the light shined on the bead curtain, it gave off a dreamy glow. There was a low table on the carpet. There were no chairs, but there were many brocade cushions. The entire room was filled with a strong foreign style, very different from the West Chu style. This is a guest house, but this room is decorated according to our East Qin customs. Do you like it? Namu Qiuo revealed a smile at her, revealing his snow-white teeth. His smile was filled with confidence because he could tell from her expression that she liked this place. He clapped his hands, and a few servants walked in, carrying a large bathtub. The bathtub was steaming, and they walked into the quiet room behind the crystal bead curtain. Your Highness, everything has been prepared. The servants bowed to Namu Qiuo. Namu Qiuo nodded. Call the female slaves in. Very quickly, 4 female slaves came in with trays. There were clothes and towels on the trays, and the room was filled with the fragrance of flowers, making people feel refreshed after smelling it. My little beauty, this was specially prepared for you. Go take a bath, you'll feel refreshed. He waved his hand, and the female slaves escorted Chen Ning into the room without saying a word. Chen Ning bit her lower lip with her teeth and stared at the bathtub that was filled with steam. Did this mean that he wanted to wash her clean and give her a tribute? I won't wash. Don't touch me. The 4 female slaves came over to pull her clothes. She tried to block them, but the female slaves all knew martial arts and quickly pushed her into the bathtub. It was unknown what kind of spice was in the water, but it had a refreshing fragrance. It made her drowsy as she soaked in the warm water. Since she couldn't escape, she just relaxed herself and let the female slaves bathe her. When she came out of the bathtub, her skin was of a translucent crystal that was even more beautiful. Where are my clothes? She found that the clothes the female slaves gave her were not the one she was wearing. Rather, it was a set of bright and beautiful East Qin clothes. The female slaves did not speak the East Qin language. So they gestured to her, meaning that her clothes had already been thrown away. Ning was helpless and could only wear this set of clothes that was completely different from the West Chu style. Chapter 609. When she came out of the room, Na Mu Qo was standing in front of the window, looking out in a daze. When he heard her footsteps, he turned around. When he saw the new her, his eyes lit up. He smiled, revealing his white teeth, and walked up to her. "You look really good in these clothes, just like a girl from our East Chin country." He stood 3 steps in front of her and looked her up and down, just like he was admiring a piece of art. Ning pursed her lips and did not say a word, letting his eyes wander over her body. In his eyes, she was already prey in his claws that could not escape. He was just thinking of a way to eat her up. "Sit. I prepared the best food in our East Chin country for you." Namu Qo had also changed into a new set of clothes. That tight cut made his figure look tall and straight. He stood straight, and his chin was slightly raised, releasing a charm that made people hold their breath. He was just like an unruly wild horse, wild and enchanting. He smiled at her again. That smiling eyes were even darker than his hair. Ning had already smelled the enticing smell of food in the air. She looked down and saw fruits and delicacies placed on the table. She sat down without any politeness and began to fill her stomach. "Try this. This is something I specially ordered them to prepare for you." Namu Qo sat cross-legged on the cushion in front of her and pushed a transparent crystal cup in front of her. "Not bad, it's very delicious. Thank you for your Highness' hospitality." The crystal cup was filled with snow-white pastries with a fragrant smell. She took a bite and found that it was very sweet, fragrant, and smooth. She also drank the liquid in the cup. It was cold and sweet, but she could not taste what it was. In fact, most of the food she ate, she did not know what it was, but the taste was very delicious. "I never thought that you would like our East Chin country's food. You're the first girl I've seen with such courage." Namu Qo's eyes fell onto the plate that she had swept clean, and he revealed a satisfied smile. "Courage?" Ning asked in a strange voice. "Shouldn't you be praising my appetite?" He revealed a smile, and his eyes sparkled. "Do you know what you just ate?" He pointed at an empty plate. Not long ago, there had been some roasted meat on the plate, but it had been eaten by her in a few bites. "Roasted meat," she replied, feeling a bit unsatisfied. "This is mountain bat meat." After he said that, he looked at her maliciously, waiting for her expression to change. Ning blinked and said without changing her expression, "The taste is delicious, but the amount is too little. Next time I ask your Highness to tell your chef to make more." This time it was Namu Qo's turn to be surprised. She was the first person he had met who knew that he had eaten mountain bat meat without batting an eyelid. Even among the East Chin girls, there were very few that were as bold as her. There were not many East Chin girls like her. "This is vole meat, this is toad leg, this is..." He pointed to the dishes on the table one by one, observing her expression as he spoke. He did not believe that her expression would not change. Ning revealed a smile. "They are all delicacies from the mountains. I must thank His Highness for his hospitality, allowing me to eat all these delicacies that I rarely eat." Namu Qo couldn't help sweating. He had ordered people to do this, but he did not have any good intentions. He wanted to scare her, but he never thought that although this girl looked weak, her nerves would be even stronger than old bamboo. Chapter 610. "All right, since you've eaten your fill, we should talk about proper business." He clapped his hands, and someone immediately came in to take away the plates on the table. They brought in 2 cups of hot tea and freshly cut fruits. This was clearly the etiquette for entertaining guests. Ning raised her brows and calmly drank the tea. It was a bit salty and bitter, but it was fragrant and mellow, so she drank it all in one gulp. "You're this confident in me. Aren't you afraid this prince will drug the food at all?" Namu Qo calmly looked at her and said. Ning revealed a faint smile and replied, "I believe in your Highness' character. You would never do this kind of despicable thing. Why? If your Highness want a woman, you yourself are the best medicine. You don't need to drug the food at all." She calmly replied. Namu Qo couldn't help breaking out in laughter as his eyes sparkled. "You're praising this prince to my face. What? Have you already discovered this prince's charm and have begun to like me? Chen Ning smiled without saying a word. I like hearing you speak. Your voice is even more beautiful than the nightingales on the prairies. Your eyes are even more enchanting than the stars in the spring night, and your face is like an undying snow lotus on a snowy mountain, always so enchanting. As long as I look at you, it will make my heart feel peaceful. My little beauty, you've already used clean water to bathe yourself, so what you should do now is offer your holy body to this prince. Namu Kuo walked closer to her as he spoke. He reached out to lift her chin and looked into her enchanting eyes. His calloused fingers gently slid across her smooth face. Now is not the time, she calmly said. Then what is the time? This prince can tell you that in our East Qin, as long as this prince likes a woman, there has never been a woman that has been rejected by this prince. This prince is willing to have a woman. That is a blessing bestowed upon her. It's a pity that this is West Chu and not East Qin. I am a West Chu citizen, so I do not dare accept your highness' blessing, she said with a faint smile. Is that so? You keep rejecting this prince. Is it because you don't like me? Or is it because of your identity that you don't dare accept me? His fingers, which were holding her chin, suddenly tightened. His hawk-like eyes stared at her, without the slightest hint of smile in them. Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat, but her face was still calm. My identity? What identity? She blinked and said, you still want to hide it from me? Your husband is surnamed Chu and is called Chu Xiaoyang. He is the King Ding Yuan of West Chu. So you are the respected King Ding Yuan princess. Your husband is surnamed Chu and is called Chu Xiaoyang. He is the King Ding Yuan of the West Chu country. So you are the noble Ding Yuan princess. Princess, this prince is not wrong, right? He really did know her identity. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, Your Highness is truly the smartest person in the world, being able to find out who I am in such a short amount of time. Admirable, admirable. She had only taken a shower, but his attitude towards her was completely different from before. This was indeed somewhat out of her expectations. Chapter 611. After saying this, he suddenly raised his brows and fiercely stared at her. His eyes revealed a fierce glow. Your Highness' question is very strange. I have never lied to you before, and I have never played any tricks in front of you. Chen Ning had an innocent look on her face. Her eyes were black and bright with a calm look. I have already told your Highness that I have been married before. It was your Highness who said he didn't care at all, but you kept saying that you wanted to fight my husband. In the end, you forcefully took me away without asking me, but now you're saying that I deliberately approached you. Isn't this being wronged? You woman, you clearly have bad intentions towards this prince. Namu Kuo's face turned red from her questioning, and he forcefully raised his chin. Chen Ning revealed a smile. Her smile made Namu Kuo even angrier. He stared at her, feeling like he had never seen through her before. The first time they met, he had been attracted by her pure and fairy-like beauty. When her dark and bright eyes looked at him, he felt like his chest had been hit by an arrow, making him feel sore and painful. He could not forget her, so he sent out a large amount of people at the Lantern Festival to search for beautiful girls, hoping to find her. In the end, he really did see her in the sea of people. This time, he did not hesitate to take her away. He thought that with his appearance, singing, and charm, he would be able to move her heart and make her willingly offer herself to him. But he found that not only was this girl beautiful, she was also smart. She had seen through his identity in an instant. He had wanted her to become one of his countless women. After he was tired of her, he would kill her. But a beautiful and smart girl was different. He was known as the smartest person in the world, so he liked to interact with smart people the most. He began to have a bit of interest in her. For this kind of smart girl, she would not be easily moved by him. It seemed like he needed to spend a bit more effort on her. This was because he had seen the two flower protectors beside her. In terms of appearance and martial arts, they were not below his, but he did not care. Everyone loved fragrant and beautiful flowers, but whether or not they could be picked depended on their own skill. During the time she went in to take a bath, he had already found out her background. Now he finally knew who his opponent was, and who her husband was. This should be the other way around. The one with bad intentions is your highness, right? Chen Ning asked back. Humph, sharp tongue. Take a look at what this is. Namu Qo took out a yellow scroll from his chest and waved it in front of her. When Chen Ning saw this, she instantly understood. This was the imperial decree that Chu Xiaobai had specially asked for her. She left in a hurry, so she didn't have time to put the imperial edict back in the room. She brought it with her. When she was bathing, the 4 female slaves took the clothes she took off. They said they threw it away, but in reality, they gave it to Namu Qo. This imperial edict was in her pocket, and he took it out. He could speak the West Chu language fluently, so naturally he could read the West Chu language. As soon as he saw this imperial edict, he immediately became suspicious. Thus, he sent someone to investigate and found out her identity. What is this? Could it be that your highness has never seen it before? This is an imperial edict, Chen Ning calmly said. Chapter 612. If my guesses aren't wrong, I believe your highness has already seen the contents of this imperial edict. Since you've seen it, why are you asking me? Do you want me to translate it to you word for word? Chen Ning blinked at him with a pair of innocent eyes. Namu Qo stared at her, filled with anger. Did this girl's guts grow hair? How could she be this bold? He had clearly seen through her identity, but she still had a calm expression. Chen Ning, do you think that this prince doesn't dare kill you? He angrily roared out. His right hand moved down and grabbed her slender neck. Of course your highness dares to kill me, but you can't kill me. Chen Ning raised her head high up. There was no fear on her face, and her eyes were as clear as water. What do you mean? Namu Qo was stunned. Does your highness know who will be competing with you in reading the steles on horseback 3 days from now? Who? It's me, she casually said. What? It's you. Namu Qo was shocked, almost not daring to believe his ears. His eyes opened wide as he looked at Chen Ning without blinking. He repeated himself. You're saying that your West Chu emperor has sent you to compete with this prince in reading the steles on horseback? That's right, it's me. Chen Ning nodded. Impossible. He didn't even think before shaking his head. Although your West Chu men are all cowards, they shouldn't be afraid of a man. They actually sent a little girl to compete with this prince. Isn't this clearly not putting this prince in their eyes? Your highness, I believe that our West Chu emperor will not use the citizens' tribute to show his contempt for your highness. Since the emperor has sent me to compete, he believes that I can defeat your highness. You want to win against this prince? In your dreams. Namu Qo looked at her like he was looking at a monster. You are indeed the smartest girl this prince has ever seen, but no matter how smart you are, you can't compare to this prince. Even if you practice for another 20 years, you can forget about winning against this prince, he said in a proud and conceited voice. But Chen Ning knew that he had the capital to be proud, and what he said was right. She indeed couldn't beat him right now. I know that I can't win against you, so I want your highness to teach me how to memorize the steles while running, she said in a calm voice, clearly enunciating each word. Namu Qo couldn't help shaking his head and picking his ears. You want this prince to teach you? He almost broke out in laughter. This little girl was really too interesting. The words that came out of her mouth were simply whimsical and could not help but make people laugh. He was her opponent in the competition, and she actually wanted him to teach her the secret? This was as funny as it could be. Ha 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 ha. He really couldn't hold it in as he broke out in laughter. After he finished laughing, he lowered his head and touched her soft face. With a smile, he said, If you agree to be this prince's woman and serve this prince to my satisfaction, perhaps this prince can consider your proposal. You, cheat, shouldn't, you, shun, tu, sheet, teat by she turned his hand, she. Chapter 613. She pursed her lips and revealed a look of ridicule. Namu Qo was filled with rage as he shouted, Who says this prince is afraid of losing? All right, I'll teach you. If you can't win against this prince in 3 days, you'll become the prince's woman. Do you dare agree? With how smart he was, how could he not hear that she was trying to provoke him? But even if he knew, he still couldn't swallow this. Not to mention that he was confident in his victory. So what if he told her the secret? If she wanted to learn it in 3 days, could she really beat him? That was purely a dream. All right, I agree. Ning was waiting for him to say this. She immediately nodded and reached out a hand. I've heard that your East Qin country has a rule of clapping palms to make a vow. Do you dare clap 3 palms with me? Why wouldn't this prince dare? I'm afraid you'll go back on your word. Namu Qo raised his right palm and clapped it 3 times with her. After the 3 palms clapped, he suddenly turned his palm and firmly grabbed her right hand. With a proud smile, he said, "Little beauty, in 3 days, you will be mine." Ning said, "It's still too early to say this. Perhaps in 3 days, it will be your highness who loses? Then what does your highness want to lose to me? I don't want your person." She pursed her lips into a smile after saying this and pulled her right hand back from his large palm. This prince will definitely not lose. What if? There is definitely no what if. Namu Qo confidently said, "All right, since your highness is this confident, then if I really win against your highness, I will make a request. Does your highness dare to agree to it?" Namu Qo knew that she was trying to provoke him again. He gave a conceited smile as he reached out to caress her cheek and said in a low voice, "That is an impossible matter, but this prince can promise you that I will make you lose convincingly. However, if you lose, no matter what this prince wants you to do, you will have to obediently listen to this prince's orders." Ning took a step back and avoided his palm. "That's fine, but I hope that your highness can maintain your noble status before the competition. You are the East Qin Crown Prince, and I am the West Chu Princess, so I hope that you can treat me with respect." "Treat me with respect? You're afraid that this prince will violate you? Ha! Ha! You don't have to worry about this. This prince will never force others. Otherwise, do you think you would still be standing here talking to this prince?" His eyes lit up and were filled with interest towards her. His eyes were filled with a faint glow. As a prince, he could have any woman he wanted. He would never lack women. However, he had never met a woman who could truly suit his heart. For her, he could wait for 3 days. "Your highness is a person who keeps his word. I believe you." She gave him a faint smile. "Qo call me Avav." He narrowed his eyes and looked at her beautiful smile. He suddenly regretted it. She was going to be his sooner or later. Why did he agree to wait for 3 more days? King of, he of, he, Chun of and of. All right, you can call me whatever you want now. When you become this prince's woman, this prince wants you to call me 100 times a day. He looked up and gave a laugh as he walked towards the door. Wait. Chapter 614. Ning rolled her eyes at him and snappily said, "I want to ask you, when will you start teaching me? If you want me to lose convincingly, then take out your true skills." The smile on Namu Qo's face slowly disappeared, and he stared at her. He could see that she was very serious. Didn't this mean that she wasn't playing hard to get with him? Was she really planning on beating him in that competition? He began to feel that this was unbelievable. The reason why he could have this pair of fiery golden eyes, other than his talent, he had worked hard every day for over 10 years. "You're serious?" He slowly said. "Of course, does your highness think I'm joking with you? This prince might as well tell you. Even if I tell you all the methods, you won't be able to learn them in 3 days. Even if you learn them, you can forget about beating this prince, because it's something that's impossible to do. How would I know it's impossible if I don't try? I'm a person who likes to face difficulties head on." She revealed a faint smile. Her smile was confident and her eyes were clear. A certain part of his heart suddenly trembled, as if he had been touched by her words, but there was nothing strange about it on his face. "All right, then you can obediently sleep here. When this prince's mood is good, naturally I'll come and teach you. Let me tell you, don't even think about running away. You won't be able to run away because no one can escape from this prince's eyes. As for what happens to those that escape, do you want to know?" He slowly said. "What happens?" "This prince will catch her and personally skin her. This prince's skinning skills are very good, so she won't die after being skinned. She will be like a bloody ball of meat that can run, move, and talk. You can't imagine how interesting that scene is. His eyes revealed a cruel glow, but his face revealed a smile. Chun-Ning's back was covered in cold sweat, and her breathing couldn't help becoming tight. She heard Nam Mu Kuo continue to say, "Do you know why she ran away? Because she hooked up with another man behind this prince's back. Then this prince caught that man and stripped him of his clothes. He made him hug that ball of meat and tightly tied the two of them together. Didn't he like to hug this prince's woman? Then this prince will let them hug each other in death." Do you know what that man's expression was when he found out that the bloody meatball in his arms was his beloved and charming woman? His eyes popped out of his head in fear before he fainted. Namu Kuo said this and broke out in laughter again, but there was only anger in his laughter and no joy at all. Chun-Ning suddenly shivered and shook her head as she said, "Don't say any more. Don't say any more." "What, you don't dare?" But this prince hasn't finished speaking yet. Do you know what? This prince sent the two of them to the sky burial terrace and let the eagles in the sky eat their flesh, only leaving behind a few white bones. Tell me, isn't this prince very benevolent towards them? As soon as she thought of that scene, a chill ran down her spine again. Of course she had heard of the sky burial terrace, but she never thought that Namu Kuo would actually feed a living person to the vultures. Chapter 615. That's right. You are truly kind to them. You sent the two of them to heaven, and now they're living together, never to be separated again, living happily ever after. Even if you want to threaten them, you can't do it. Chun-Ning's heart was filled with disgust, and her voice became filled with sarcasm. Namu Kuo's face instantly turned red, and he angrily jumped up. He forcefully pointed at Chun-Ning, being so angry that he couldn't say anything. You. He found that he was so smart, but he couldn't find the words to refute her. His chest swelled and tightened at the thought that there was some truth in what she said. Chun-Ning looked at him and suddenly said, "Your Highness, you must love that girl a lot, right? Is she the one in your heart?" Namu Kuo wanted to say, "What does it have to do with you? Why should this prince tell you?" However, he couldn't help but nod his head. The past events of the past surged into his mind, causing his voice to become gloomy. That's right. She is this prince's most beloved girl. She is also the most beautiful girl in our East Qin country. She and I were childhood sweethearts, and I already knew that when we grew up, she would be my bride. I have been waiting for her to grow up, waiting for the day she marries me. Do you know how long I waited for her? He paused for a bit. Without waiting for Chun-Ning to speak, he continued to say, "I waited for her for an entire 18 years. On the day she finally turned 18, I proposed to her, and she smiled shyly as she agreed. At that moment, I felt that I was the happiest person in the world. But do you know what happened afterwards?" Chun-Ning did not say a word and just silently listened. She knew that Namu Kuo did not care about her reply. He had been suppressed for too long. He just wanted a pair of ears that could listen. On the night she agreed to my proposal, I was so happy that I couldn't sleep, so I ran under her window. I did not want to disturb her sleep. I just wanted to hear if she was calling my name in her sleep. If she wasn't asleep, I would sing to her under her window, singing until she fell asleep. In our East Qin country, all the girls liked to listen to my singing, but I was only willing to sing to her. Every time she heard me sing, she would become very quiet. She would sit in front of me with her chin in her hands, and those eyes that were brighter than the stars in the sky would look at me without blinking. She looked at my heart, and my singing became even more touching and even more moving. At that time, I really wanted to hug her and kiss her, but every time I wanted to do this, she would stop me. She said that she was still young and wanted me to slowly wait for her to grow up. Namu Kuo's voice was deep and had a trace of magnetism. He had a beautiful voice that was like flowing water that lingered in her ears. She was entranced by his words. She didn't expect that this man, who looked so aggressive, would have such lingering and immature feelings of love. Chapter 616. It was like my acupuncture point had been poked, and I just stood there. I heard a man's low voice ring out. He was panting as he said, Yili Xian, you are truly beautiful. Your body is even more enchanting than your face. I really want to die in your embrace and never get up again. I immediately recognized who this voice belonged to. He was called Kubu, my guard and my best brother. I grew up with him and Yili Xian, so he always knew that Yili Xian was my beloved girl. But now, he was sleeping in Yili Xian's bed. When he said this, he thought of the past. The muscles on his face twisted, and his handsome face became fierce and terrifying. Chen Ning said in a low voice, Her name is Yili Xian? This name is truly beautiful. When she heard him talk about skinning people alive, she was filled with disgust towards him, but when she heard him talk about his past, it seemed like he wasn't a naturally vicious person. It seemed like he'd been hurt in love, causing his mood to change like this. Namu Kuo did not look at her. His eyes looked out the window, falling into an unknown place. That's right, she's called Yili Xian. Her name is beautiful, but she is even more beautiful. As for her body, it was indeed beautiful beyond compare. Her skin was as white and smooth as milk, making it hard for people to let go after touching it. So, I racked my brain to think of a way to help her keep it. I skinned her. It was a whole piece of human skin that was very perfect. After all these years, I have kept it well. Little beauty, do you want to see it? He suddenly turned around and revealed a strange smile at her. She instantly felt her blood run cold. It's her. Namu Kuo pointed at a lantern beside her and said in a soft voice. The lantern was as thin as a cicada's wing, and there was a peerless beauty depicted on it. She was wearing a small embroidered hat with 2 black braids hanging down. She had a sweet smile and beautiful eyes, looking very beautiful. It was like a beautiful painting. Chen Ning couldn't help gently caressing the beauty's face and sincerely said, She is truly beautiful. She found that she did not know what this lantern was made of. It was light and thin, like it was made of paper or leather. It was soft to the touch, just like a young girl's crystal-clear skin. This is her skin? She suddenly came to her senses and suddenly took back her hand. Looking at the lantern, she felt her throat become dry and her fingers tremble. You actually turned her skin into a lantern. You, how could you even do this kind of thing? Even with her calm, her face couldn't help changing color, and the hairs on her body stood up. Namu Kuo's deep black eyes looked at her, and his lips slightly curled up, revealing his white teeth as he smiled. Little beauty, you're finally afraid? Little beauty, you are. You don't have to be afraid. As long as you listen to me obediently, I will treat you very well. But if you don't listen, I will peel off your skin and make another lantern. Chen Ning bit her lips, and in her face turned as white as snow. She wasn't afraid of death, but the thought of being skinned alive and then made into lanterns made her feel nauseous. The food she had just eaten churned in her stomach, and she almost vomited it out. Chun, after you discovered Yili Xian's affair, what happened to you? She took a deep breath and asked. Chapter 617. I heard Namu Kuo's low and deep voice slowly ring out. Afterwards, I heard Yili Xian's voice. She said, Good big brother, how much you love me, get it to me tonight. After tonight, I will marry him and I will become his woman. Her voice was still as sweet and moving as a heavenly bird, but my stomach was filled with pain because she was calling another man. She was calling him good big brother. I couldn't hold back and place my hand on the hilt of my knife. I wanted to jump through the window and stab them one by one, ending this pair of cheap people. Who would have thought that at this time, I would hear Kubu say, Yili Xian, you don't need to marry him. You are my woman. You can only marry me in this life. Yili Xian gave a low sigh and said, I have no choice but to marry him. If I don't marry him, he will exterminate my father's tribe. I can't harm the lives of my entire tribe, just for me. When he said this, he paused and his eyes fell onto the lantern. He looked at it in a daze, as if his mind was immersed in the memories of the past. Chen Ning did not interrupt him. She was also looking at Yili Xian in the painting, thinking that the person she loved was not him. Kubu suddenly gave a cold laugh and said, You don't need to be afraid. He won't live for long. Yili Xian was shocked and asked, "What did you say?" My heart was also shocked. I quickly held my breath and pricked up my ears to listen. Although the two of them did not hear a single word of my name, I knew that the him Ku Bu was talking about was definitely me. I heard Ku Bu proudly say, "Haven't you noticed any changes in him recently?" Yili Xian said, "On his face doesn't seem too good, and he often shivers." I asked him what was wrong, and he said that he was cold, so he wanted to hug me. As long as he hugged me, he wouldn't be cold. I thought that he wanted to get close to me, so I ignored him and left. "Kubu, what did you do to him?" Kubu said, "Don't worry about that. As long as you patiently wait a few more days, he won't be able to threaten you or your tribe." Yili Xian said in a trembling voice, "You poisoned him? You gave him the angel's horn, right?" Kubu did not say anything else, but he must have nodded. Hearing this, Chun Ning couldn't help letting out a soft cry. "The angel's horn?" Namu Qo immediately turned to look at her and said in a low voice, "What? You've also heard of this poison before." Chun Ning said in a low voice, "The angel's horn. The flower is pure white, and it looks like a beautiful morning glory. The pollen contains a strong poison, and it can pass through a person's skin. A person who is poisoned by this poison will feel colder and colder until their blood turns to ice. It is ranked 7th in the world's top 10 poisonous flowers." Na-mu Qo muttered. Seventh in the world is already this powerful? That's right, it's this angel's horn." He pressed his right hand against the low table, his fingers almost digging into the hard surface, his knuckles cracking. Chunning finally understood why his body was as cold as ice and why he often soaked in hot springs. It was because the angel's horn had no antidote, and only sulfur could slow down the spread of its poison. Chapter 618. Yili Xian gave a low cry and buried her face into Kubu's chest, clearly not having the face to see me. Kubu looked up at me and said in a trembling voice, "Master, I... It was clear that he never thought that I would appear. I did not listen to him say a single word and directly sealed his acupuncture point before throwing him out the window. There was only me and Yili Xian left in the room. Her body that was as beautiful as a newborn baby appeared in front of me, looking strangely beautiful under the moonlight. This is the scene I yearned for. I have thought about her body for a long time, and it was even more beautiful than I imagined. If it was normal times, I would have already thrown myself at her, but there was no ripple in my heart at that time. I just stared at her without blinking. I wanted to see what kind of heart was hidden under that beautiful appearance of this woman. Yili Xian was first panicked before she looked up at me and said, "Ah, Qo, I've let you down. Kill me." She closed her eyes. I gave a cold laugh. "Do you think it's that easy if you want to die?" I pulled her up from the ground and roughly kneaded her body. Her skin was really soft. It was even smoother than milk. I used a lot of force and tears came out of her eyes from the pain, but she bit her lips and did not say a word. I said, You never wanted me to touch you, did you? Why aren't you screaming when I touch you now? Scream for me." I used a lot of force and she gave a sharp cry. Her body trembled and tears came out of her beautiful eyes. I stared at her face and my heart did not have any pity at all. At this moment, I knew that I hated her. How much I loved her in the past. How much I hate her now. When Chen Ning heard this, her face couldn't help turning red. She covered her ears and said, "Don't say any more. I don't want to hear any more." She was thinking that if Yili Xian fell into his hands, what kind of good ending would she have? She did not want to listen to some inappropriate plot. Namu Qo did not care. He was already completely immersed in the past. Although Chun Ning covered her ears, his voice still entered her ears word by word. Yili Xian suddenly threw herself into my embrace. She tightly hugged me and cried, "Ah, Qo, I'll give myself to you. I beg you to spare my tribe. All right?" I looked at her and did not say a word. She stretched out her orchid-like arms around my neck and stood on her tiptoes to kiss me. If I didn't know about her and Kubu's matter, I would have fainted from excitement, but I just coldly looked at her. Where her lips were about to touch mine, I suddenly pushed her away with a palm. She fell to the ground and looked at me in shock. I said, Bully Sienyu, Amelie Boo Boo, you are not worthy of my pure feelings for you. Yili Sien, I want you to personally see how I kill people. I went over to grab her hair and dragged her out the door. There was already a large group of people gathered outside. All of them were Yili Sien's people. Chapter 619. The chief's head fell to the ground with his eyes still open. Yili Sien let out a scream of terror. I grabbed her with one hand and kept swinging the scimitar in my other hand. Heads flew into the air, and my clothes were quickly soaked in blood. My eyes were red from killing, and I did not let a single tribe member go. Even the newborn babies were cut in half by my scimitar. Finally, the world became silent. I turned around and looked at the naked man on the ground. I walked over to him step by step, and the blood from the scimitar in my hand fell to the ground. Yili Sien had already fainted, but she suddenly woke up. She grabbed my arm and cried, Akuo, I'm begging you, don't kill him. It's my fault. Everything is my fault. It has nothing to do with him. I turned to look at her and asked with an expressionless face, Your meaning is that you seduced him? Yili Sien's face turned white, and she bit her lips, not saying a word. Kubu shouted, It was me who seduced her. Kill me if you want to kill her. Don't touch her. I looked at him coldly. Kubu, even though you're my guard, I've always treated you as my best brother. Why did you betray me and poison me? When Namu Kuo said this, his deep voice suddenly became sharp, like the scene of that day reappearing in front of his eyes. Chen Ning couldn't help feeling a chill run down her body. She had been covering her ears, but she slowly lowered them at this time. She heard Namu Kuo continue. Kumu looked at my face filled with killing intent, but he did not reveal any fear. He loudly said, Because Yili Sien does not love you. The person she loves is me, not you. But her father clearly knew this, but he still insisted on marrying her to you, because you are the crown prince, and I am only a guard. Because you can protect his tribe and his wealth. So he forcefully separated me and Yili Sien. So for the tribe, Yili Sien had no choice but to marry you. Namu Kuo, you have always been high up, proud, and conceited. You probably never thought that I am inferior to you in everything, but Yili Sien has fallen in love with me. Ha ha, ha ha. He wildly laughed. I knew that he wanted to anger me and make me kill him with a single slash, but I would not fall for his trick. He stole my most beloved woman. How could I let him die so easily? Namu Kuo turned around and stared at her. His wild eyes were filled with a tyrannical intent, making her back covered in a layer of cold sweat. I have already told you what happened next. I peeled Yili Sien's skin and made it into this lantern so that she could always stay by my side. No matter where I go, I will always bring this lantern. As long as I see it, it is like seeing Yili Sien, and she will never betray me again. You said that I had sent them to heaven and that they were living a very happy life. But you don't know that Yili Sien will not be able to go to heaven because she was not complete when she was sent to the sky burial platform. Her skin was left with me. So now she and Ku Bu are in heaven and one is in hell. They will never be together again. This is the end of my story. Little Beauty, did you enjoy listening? Chapter 620. Chen Ning's heart turned cold. She looked away and did not look at him. In a cold voice, she said, Your Highness, what is your goal in telling me your story? Namu Kuo said in a low voice, I don't know either. Perhaps this matter has been suppressed in my heart for too long, or perhaps you remind me of Yili Sien because you have the same pair of eyes as her. The first time I saw you, I almost mistook you for her. However, you're not Yili Sien. Even if you want to become the second her, this prince will not give you this chance. He gritted his teeth, jumped up, and walked out without looking back. When the door slammed shut and she could no longer hear his footsteps, Chen Ning finally let out a long sigh of relief. She felt her back covered in cold sweat. She knew Namu Kuo's story. Although it was bloody and cruel, every word was true. Especially when she saw that lantern, she felt her throat fill with nausea. Abnormal. This man's mind was already twisted to the point of being abnormal. She felt like she was crazy. She was actually this bold and wanted to make a deal with this man? Perhaps she would also end up like this lantern in the end. But she had no way out now. She could only grit her teeth and continue walking. She let out a sigh and blew out the candle in the lantern. She placed the lantern in the closet. If she had to face this kind of human skin lantern, she would not be able to sleep. After blowing out the lantern, she found that the sky outside was already bright. She had listened to Namu Kyo's story for over an hour. Namu Kyo had promised that he would not touch her for 3 days, so she was not worried that Namu Kyo would return. She lay down on the bed and closed her eyes, wanting to sleep. She wanted to recover her energy to deal with this difficult East Chin crown prince. But her mind was filled with thoughts. How could she sleep? Mo Chuan's figure appeared in her mind, and then Chu Xiaobai appeared in her mind. They must know that she was missing and must be looking for her. That Zhue Feng who was as stupid as Xiao Ru. Could he understand the meaning of her words? Could he bring news of her to Mo Chuan? She finally fell asleep and had a dream. In the dream, she seemed to see a beautiful young girl with a pair of beautiful large eyes that kept talking to her, but she couldn't hear a single word. "What did you say?" "Big Count, I can't hear you," she loudly said to the young girl. The young girl's face suddenly revealed a look of shock as a large hand reached out and grabbed the young girl. A piece of human skin fell off, and the young girl turned into a bloody mess, letting out a painful cry. She woke up with a start. Her face was covered in cold sweat. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw a tall and sturdy figure beside her. He was looking down at her with a pair of cheetah-like eyes that glowed faintly. "Namu Kyo," she blurted out, not knowing if this was a dream or reality. He stared at her intently. "Did you have a nightmare?" He looked at her without turning. Chun what? In fact, he had been there for a long time. Before she woke up, he had been by her side watching over her. After she fell asleep, that pair of eyes that were almost the same as Yili Xian's were covered by 2 long and dense eyelashes, but he was still enchanted by them. The dark and soft cloud-like hair fell on the pillow, reflecting her snow-white face, making her look very beautiful. Chapter 621. Seeing her wake up from her dream and open her eyes that were similar to Yili Xian's, it made him fall into a daze. It was like he had returned to his youth when he was infatuated with Yili Xian, making his voice unknowingly become gentle. Chenning wiped the cold sweat off her head with her sleeve. Thinking of the young girl in her dream, she said, "I dreamed of Yili Xian and saw you peel off her skin. She even said a few words to me. Is that so? Did Yili Xian tell you in your dream? What did she say to you?" Namu Kyo looked at her and said, "She said, you are 100% a devil." She said word by word. "Demon? That's right. I'm a demon. Then what is she?" "I thought she was a fairy from the heavens, but she was fooling around with my guards behind my back. She stepped on my pride and dignity. Everything I did was forced by her and Kubu." He gritted his teeth. "Just because she and Kubu betrayed you, isn't it enough for you to kill the 2 of them? Why did you kill the lives of their entire clan, not even letting a newborn baby go?" He coldly said, "Killing 2 people is not enough to vent this prince's anger. Since she dared to betray me, this prince will bury the lives of her entire clan with her. Everyone who betrays this prince will have the same ending." He coldly looked at her. "Even you are not an exception. This prince is not your husband, Chu Xiaoyang. But if you become my woman, I will not allow you to betray me in the slightest. You can only have me in your heart, and if you dare think of another man, I will personally dig out your heart and eat it bite by bite. Then I will kill the man in your heart and his entire clan. If he is the emperor, I will destroy his country." Chen Ning stared at him, and her body turned cold. She slowly said, "Namu Kyo, you really know quite a bit." He revealed a smile, but that smile did not reach his eyes. His eyes were filled with a layer of ice. "I'm the smartest person in the world. As long as I want to know something, there is nothing that can escape my eyes. So, don't ever think of lying to me. You know the result of lying to me. Now, properly wash yourself. This prince will take you out." He clapped his hands, and several female slaves came in. They were holding things to wash herself, preparing to help Ning wash herself. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. "Where do you think this prince wants to take you? I remember that we had an agreement. I will stay here, and you will teach me the way of learning." "Woman, you really are long-winded. This prince will give you half a cup of tea's time. If you haven't changed your clothes by then, this prince doesn't mind bringing you out in a disheveled state." After saying that, he strode away with large strides. He did what he said, and in half a cup of tea's time, he came back. Ning had already been changed into a new set of clothes by several female slaves. She did not care what these people gave her at all. She was only thinking about how to find Namu Kuo and obtain the secret technique as soon as possible. She raised her head and found that Namu Kuo's gaze on her had become intense and passionate. Her heart was shocked, and she turned to look at herself in the mirror. Her eyes immediately lit up. Chapter 622. This set of East Chin clothes was very different from West Chu's, but it accentuated her small waist, making her look slender and beautiful. However, she seemed to have seen this outfit somewhere before. She also felt a sense of familiarity when she looked at herself in the mirror. That's right, it was Yili Xian. The Yili Xian on the human skin lantern was wearing the same set of clothes. No wonder she felt it was familiar. "Namu Kuo, what is the meaning of wearing her clothes on me? You want to use me as a substitute for Yili Xian, right?" Hearing Ning's words, the female slaves all took in a cold breath. They were thinking that this girl actually dared to call the crown prince by his name. The crown prince would surely fly into a rage. Namu Kuo was not angry as he calmly said, "No one can replace Yili Xian. This prince just feels that you look good in this set of clothes. If you don't like it, I'll have them prepare a new one for you tomorrow. There's no time now, let's go." He went to pull her hand, but Ning took a step back and said, "Your Highness." His eyes were filled with flames. "You won't even let this prince touch your hand? Don't forget, you are the one asking me for help. Where are you taking me?" Long-winded. Namu Kuo was impatient. After saying these two words, he suddenly walked forward and grabbed her wrist, bringing her out of the room and out of the guest house. There was a 4-horse carriage in front of the door, looking very noble and beautiful. The inside of the carriage was very comfortable, with a thick wool carpet, a low table, soft cushions, fruits, and wine. He pulled her onto the carriage and said a few words to the driver in East Chin language. The driver shook the reins and whipped the horse, causing the carriage to quickly move. The two of them did not say a word. Ning did not even look at him. She just looked at the scenery outside the window, feeling more relaxed than facing him. After hearing his story, she felt an indescribable pressure when she looked at him, making her chest feel stuffy. Especially when she thought about how he killed Yili Xian's entire clan and how he made her into a lantern. She just wanted to stay away from him. She began to realize that she had provoked a very dangerous person. "Why aren't you speaking? Has my story scared you and made you afraid? Are you afraid of me now?" Namu Kuo had been watching her the entire time, not missing a single expression on her face. He told her that story just to warn her, but seeing that she was really keeping a respectful distance from him made him feel very uncomfortable. She finally turned to look at him. It's not fear, it's disgust. Her honesty did not make him angry, but rather it made him laugh. He looked at her with eyes of admiration. "You are the first girl that dares say this kind of words in front of me. You are very bold and courageous, which is why this prince likes you. You don't just have a beautiful face, you also have a beautiful head." His eyes were filled with a strong aggression, as if she was a fish on a cage. She was a fish on a fish on a fish on a fish. She turned her head away and continued to look out the window, saying nothing. "What's so beautiful about the scenery outside that your gaze lingers on it like this? Could it be that this prince's face is not as beautiful as the scenery?" Chapter 623. She could feel him coming closer to her. An arm was placed on the wall of the carriage, trapping her in the crook of his arm. He did not touch her, but as long as she moved, she would fall into his embrace. This was a very ambiguous position. If it was between lovers, it would be very romantic, but the closer he came, the more disgusted she felt. Your Royal Highness, I hope you remember the 3 rules we agreed on. She looked up at his burning gaze. Of course this prince remembers. I will not force you, my little beauty, because I do not need to force others. I will wait for the day you fall in love with me and throw yourself into my embrace. He lowered his head and revealed a smile at her. She said in her heart, never. He still had a sunny smile on his face as he stared into her eyes. You still have another man in your heart, so you would rather jump off the carriage to your death than let me touch you, right? She did not say a word, but her expression explained everything. Namu Qo released her arm and calmly said, after Yilisian died, I have had many women, and I found that no woman has ever rejected me. I did not need to smile at them. I did not need to please them. I did not need to sing love songs to them, and they would take the initiative to give their hearts to me. Each woman worships me like a god, and they all did it willingly. Yilisian was the only one who rejected me, because the person she loved was not me. You are the second girl to reject me, because the person you love is not me. So you can be assured that before you are willing, I will not touch you. If it's like this, then I thank you, she said in a low voice. He revealed a taunting smile. It sounds like you don't care about my love at all. Do you know that the more you reject me, the more interested I become? Because the easier it is to obtain something, the less valuable it is, and the less I care about it. Do you know where the women that threw themselves into my embrace went in the end? You wouldn't have killed them all, right? It seems like my story last night left a deep shadow in your heart. This prince does not like killing people, especially the women that love me. I couldn't bear to kill them, but I also looked down on them. So when I was tired of their faces, I sent them to the army camp and gave them to my soldiers to enjoy. He broke out in a proud laugh. Chun Ning's body trembled, and she forcefully bit her lips. Little beauty, you don't need to be afraid. This prince likes you, and my interest in you is stronger than all of them combined. Before this prince can see what you are thinking in that beautiful little head of yours, this prince is not willing to give you to my rough subordinates. They don't know how to appreciate your beauty. They're only interested in your body. After he said this like nothing had happened, he picked up the fruits on the table and gave them to her. Try our East Chin country's fruits. Isn't it sweeter and more delicious than your West Chu country's? Isn't it sweeter and more delicious than your West Chu's? Just like our East Chin men, they're all brave warriors. I'm afraid you haven't tasted the taste of a real man, right? When you become my woman, I will make it so that you will never be willing to leave me. Chapter 624. Shameless. She angrily cursed out before turning her head to avoid the fruit he handed over. She turned a deaf ear to his words and did not even care about them. Namu Qo revealed a proud smile. The angrier she was, the happier he was. On the way out of the city, the road became narrower and more rugged. In the end, the horse carriage could not move forward at all. Namu Qo had the driver stop the carriage and wait in place. He pointed at a tall mountain in front of him and said to her, "Can you climb to the top of this mountain?" Chun Ning looked up and saw that the mountain was steep. The middle of the mountain was covered in layers of white mist, and she could not see the peak. There were strange rocks everywhere, and there was no path at all. "Did you bring me out just to climb a mountain? This prince just wants to see if you have the qualifications to be this prince's disciple. You want this prince to teach you secret techniques. All right. As long as you climb to the top of the mountain with your own strength, this prince will immediately teach it to you." He said, "Your Highness, don't you think you are forcing me?" She gritted her teeth. She did not have any climbing tools. If she were to climb the mountain like this and climb this kind of dangerous mountain, she would fall to her death before she could even climb halfway. He revealed a smile at her. "It's fine if you don't want to climb. As long as you ask the prince to carry you up, this prince will carry you up the mountain. Once we reach the top, this prince will teach you." The mountain here was extremely steep, and the path he chose was even more difficult to traverse. There were many cliff-like stone walls in many places, and for an ordinary person who did not know Qigong, climbing to the top of the mountain on foot was almost as difficult as ascending to heaven. But for a Qigong expert like Namu Qo, climbing to the top of the mountain was just a few breaths of time. He deliberately used this method to make it hard for her, and then waited for her to beg him. Didn't you not let this prince touch you? This prince wants you to personally ask this prince to carry you. No need. Ning looked up and looked at him, reading his thoughts with her eyes. He wanted her to admit defeat? No way. Wasn't it just climbing a mountain? She did not believe that she could not climb it. Although she did not know martial arts, she still had a foundation in martial arts, and her body was stronger than normal people. Adding in the fact that Chu Xiao had taught her some Qigong, although they were all beginner level, they were very practical. Only she did not have time to practice it, so this was a good chance to practice it. As she silently recited the essentials of Qigong, she studied how to use it. Gradually, she understood it and actually figured out a lot of tricks. Her feet suddenly felt light, and her speed of climbing the mountain also increased a lot. Namu Qo slowed down his footsteps and followed behind her, so that he could catch her if she fell. Seeing her clumsy movements, she was like a little duck that was learning to walk, swaying and almost falling several times. But before he could reach out to support her, she actually stood up on her own. Along the way, her clothes were all soaked in sweat and stuck tightly to her body. The embroidered hat on her head had been hooked away by a tree branch at some point. Her fair and tender face was covered in sweat and dust. She looked very disheveled, but her eyes shone brighter than ever. Chapter 6:25. Your Highness, you have to keep your word. I'm already standing on the top of the mountain. Can you start teaching me now? Ning used her tenacious willpower to finally reach the top of the mountain. She was already panting from exhaustion. Namu Qo stood beside her. His face was not red, and he was not out of breath. The clothes on his body were as clean as if he had just put them on. There was not even a speck of dust on them. At this time, the red sun was slowly setting in the west. The evening clouds were like a raging fire, dyeing half the sky red. It was very beautiful. Look, he pointed at the setting sun and only said a single word. Ning looked at it a few times. She had to admit that the setting sun was very beautiful, but she had worked hard to climb the mountain, not to see the sunset. Is it beautiful? He asked. Beautiful my ass. She was so tired that she found a rock to sit down on. She was not even out of breath. How could she be in the mood to see the sunset? Your Highness, do you still keep your word? Observe. He simply said 2 words. Observe? Observe what? Namu Qo. If you told me to climb up here to watch the sunset with you, then you can watch it by yourself. I'm not interested in this. Ning felt like her lungs were about to explode from anger. While climbing up the mountain, she had encountered danger several times, almost falling down and bleeding. She never thought that after climbing up, he would be leisurely watching the sunset. The most beautiful scenery in this world is always fleeting. So whenever I see this kind of beautiful scenery, I can't help observing it. I want to remember this scene that changes in an instant. When I close my eyes, I can still clearly see the sunset, and every change will clearly appear in my mind. Over time, I have developed this kind of habit. When I see the ebb and flow of the tide, when I see the sunrise and sunset, when I see the clouds in the desert, when I see the mirage, and even when I see the fireworks, I will observe and remember this fleeting, beautiful moment. Namu Qo did not turn around to look at Ning. He had been looking at the setting sun on the horizon as he slowly spoke. His voice was beautiful and deep, like he was reciting a poem in a low voice. Ning's heart skipped a beat, and her eyes began to glow. She suddenly looked up and looked at the setting sun. The red sun quickly fell to the other side of the mountain. It was just like Namu Qo said, it was fleeting. She did not look for long before there was a faint red glow on the horizon, and the sky began to darken. She closed her eyes and began to think back in her mind. Namu Qo had his hands behind his back as he stared at her. After a while, she finally opened her eyes. Her eyes sparkled, and she smiled at him. Do you understand? In fact, he didn't need to ask. Just by looking at the expression of understanding on her face, he knew that she had completely understood his words. I understand. Thank you, Your Highness. Very good. I've already told you the principles. What you need to do now is to practice more. She understood his meaning and nodded. At this time, the sky had already darkened. She was standing on the peak of the mountain with the blue sky above her head, dotted with a few stars. She knew that there was nothing suitable for her to practice her observation here, unless she waited for the sun to rise. The wind blew across the mountain peak, and her sweat-soaked clothes were already dried by the wind. If this continued, she did not have the confidence that she wouldn't be sick. Chapter 6:26. Then let's go down the mountain. She began to look for a path down the mountain. But going up the mountain was easy, going down the mountain was hard. Especially on this steep mountain, there was no path at all. She had relied on her tenacity to go up the mountain. Adding in the fact that the sky was still bright, she could clearly see where the rocks and grass were, but now there was only the faint starlight. Looking down now, she couldn't find a place to land at all. There were only protruding rocks that looked like strange shadows in the night. If she dared go down the mountain, she could fall down at any moment and break into pieces. She stood there in a daze as she bit her lower lip. Her heart was filled with anger, and the good feelings and gratitude she had for Namu Kyo completely disappeared. Namu Kyo. She turned around with her hands tightly clenched into fists, staring at him like an angry little beast. She now understood that Namu Kyo's schemes were much deeper than she had imagined. He was truly worthy of being the smartest person in the world. Not only was he smart, he was also sly. He could casually dig a hole for her to jump in with her eyes closed. Namu Kyo sat on a high protruding rock, looking very casual. The cloak on his body fluttered in the wind, like the wings of an eagle dancing in the night. Her thin clothes were blown through by the wind, and she shivered all over, but there wasn't even a place to take shelter from the wind. Namu Kyo tilted his head and looked at her. He suddenly patted the spot beside him and grinned. If you don't want to get sick, then sit here. She ignored him. He wanted her to throw herself into his arms, but that was impossible. She grabbed a vine and carefully climbed down. Slowly, she used a bit of strength, her toes probing the ground around her. Suddenly, her hand loosened and the vine snapped in two. She gave a short cry of shock as she fell down the mountain. Damn! As the world spun around her, she heard a curse. Then, she fell into a strong embrace. Namu Kyo used one arm to protect her head, pressing her head tightly against his chest, carrying her as they rolled down the mountain. The hard protruding rocks left countless bloody marks and wounds on his body, but he still did not let go of his arm. Suddenly, the two of them fell through the air as they fell down a cliff. Namu Kyo took a deep breath as his arm tightly wrapped around her waist. His right hand pulled out a dagger, and he stabbed it into the stone wall. The tip of the sword pierced deep into the rock, supporting the bodies of the two people who were falling down. They were hanging on a rock wall that was as smooth as a mirror, and there was a bottomless abyss below them. The mountain wind whistled through the air. There was a white mist below them, and they could not see how deep it was. But if they fell down, even with Namu Kyo's high-level martial arts, they would not be able to escape death. Little beauty, is this the result you wanted? Do you know that if I didn't save you, you would have been turned into a pile of meat by now? Namu Kyo lowered his head and looked at her in his embrace, revealing his white teeth as he smiled. Ning looked up. Her eyes were as clear as usual, and she also revealed a smile. You're the one who took the initiative to save me. If you fall down and become a pile of meat, it has nothing to do with me. Chapter 6:27. You really are a strange girl. It was clearly me who saved you, but you still don't appreciate it. He smiled and pushed off the stone wall with the tip of his foot. His body suddenly rose up and flew up the cliff like a goshawk. He did not let go of the arm around her waist as he brought her up the mountain. He returned to the top of the mountain and sat down on the giant rock he was sitting on before. Put this on and you won't feel cold. He took off his cloak and placed it over her shoulders, helping her tie up the belt. Namu Kyo, do you want to wait to see the sunrise tomorrow? She turned to look at him, not understanding why he was still staying here. With his martial arts, Going up and down the mountain was like walking on flat ground. He could go down and come back up. I want to give you a present. He did not answer her question. He took out a black object from his waist. It was crooked and looked like a small iron snake. I don't deserve a reward without doing anything. Your Highness' gift, I am ashamed to accept it. Please take it back. She didn't even look at him and rejected him bluntly. Do you think it's this? Of course not. The things this prince wants to give you, you can't take it back. Namu Qo placed the little iron snake in his mouth and blew with all his strength. A sharp whistle pierced through the night and spread far away. Instantly the birds in the forest were startled, and they flapped their wings to fly into the sky. Following that, there was a muffled sound that came from the foot of the mountain. Punk! She saw a meteor cannon fly into the sky and explode in midair. It was a riot of colors as it flowed through the sky. It was dazzling in the night and was incomparably gorgeous. So, the present he wanted to give her was this. Chen Ning instantly understood. She immediately focused her attention and slightly leaned forward. Her eyes did not even blink as she stared at the rain of flowers in the night sky. She imprinted the ever-changing scene into her mind. She heard a pung, pung sound as meteor cannon after meteor cannon flew into the sky. It was beautiful and beautiful, looking like a fantasy. Chen Ning did not care about cheering as she focused all of her attention on her eyes and mind. She did not see or hear anything around her. The sea of flowers bloomed in the night sky, and the light from the flames shined on her cheeks. Her dark eyes were filled with a strange glow, making her look strangely beautiful. Namu Qo looked at her without blinking. She remembered the fireworks, but he remembered her. This beautiful scene had not appeared in front of him in many years. He remembered that when he saw the fireworks with Yili Xian, he thought that they would be together for the rest of their lives. But she was like a beautiful firework. After it bloomed, all that was left for him was a lonely lamp. The mountain wind blew and the night sky was silent. No matter how beautiful the fireworks were, they would still turn into nothing. He had lost Yili Xian before, so could he have this girl in front of him? Would she be like this firework, leaving nothing behind after it bloomed? So he had to firmly remember this scene. Remember the multicolored clouds reflected on her face. Remember the flowers blooming like a brocade in her eyes. All of a sudden, his body trembled slightly, and the expression on his face changed. But she was completely immersed in the world of fireworks and did not pay attention at all. She did not even look at him from the corner of her eyes. Good G. Chapter 628. The poison had acted up. Damn, he had been so engrossed in looking at her that he had completely forgotten about the time the poison had acted up. Namu Qo gritted his teeth, not allowing himself to make a sound. He wanted to use his internal energy to fight against the cold in his body, but he became colder and colder. It was like the blood in his body had turned to ice and his hands were numb. Finally, with a pung sound, he fell down like a stone statue. Namu Qo, what's wrong? Hearing the sound of him falling, Chen Ning suddenly came back to her senses. She found that he had fallen on the stone and his body was curled up, trembling non-stop. That face that always had a bright smile on it was now pale white, and his lips had turned purple. Cold. Gee. Cold. Namu Qo's teeth were chattering from the cold, and there was a layer of white frost on his hair. Chen Ning immediately understood that the poison in his body had acted up. She instantly knit her brows. There was no cure for this angel's horn in this world. The only way to slow down the poison was to soak in a hot spring. Only a hot spring filled with sulfur could make the frozen blood in his body start to flow again. But at the peak of this mountain, where could she find a hot spring? Namu Qo. Namu Qo. She knelt down beside him and called out. She saw that his bright eyes had already dimmed and his lips had been bitten by himself, leaking blood. She gently touched it and felt that the blood was ice cold. Standing beside him, she could feel a cold aura pressing down on her. She took off her cloak and wrapped it around him, but it was of no use to him. He was cold from the bottom of his bones. Namu Qo, tell me, other than hot springs, is there any other way to reduce your poison? She loudly called out in his ear because she was not sure if he was conscious or not. His eyes did not seem to be moving, and his body was curled up into a ball, just like a statue made of ice. Even his clothes were covered in a thin layer of ice. The more she looked, the more shocked she was. She never thought that this angel's horn would act up like this. His lips moved, but his tongue was stiff as he spat out an unclear word. She looked at his lips and nodded. She understood. He said blood. She did not hesitate at all as she pulled out the scimitar from his waist and cut her left wrist. Blood instantly flowed out. Drink, quickly drink. She placed the wound on her wrist in front of his lips, and the warm blood flowed into his mouth. Namu Kyo's eyes suddenly opened wide, and he stared right at her without blinking. The warm blood flowed down his throat to his stomach, and he felt a warm feeling in his body. As the warm blood increased, his body also became warmer. Enough! Enough! He wanted to say enough, but he could not say it clearly. Seeing that the blood on the wound was gradually coagulating, she cut her right wrist and continued to feed him blood. Namu Kyo closed his eyes and slowly took a deep breath. The true chi in his body slowly circulated, sending the warmth to his limbs and bones. Gradually, he no longer felt cold, and his stiff limbs became soft. Suddenly, he leapt up from the ground and let out a clear and melodious roar. He felt that his entire body was once again filled with energy and vitality. However, he knew that this was only temporary. The warm blood he drank could only suppress the cold poison for about an hour. He needed to soak in the hot spring to control the poison. Chapter 6:29. Why did you save me? Don't you hate me a lot? Why didn't you let me die from the poison? He looked down at her and said in a dry voice. He knew that time was precious and it was not the time to speak, but he couldn't help speaking. She was bandaging the wound on her wrist with her head lowered. Hearing this, she didn't even raise her head and said, "You saved me once just now, so we're even now. No one owes the other anything. You don't have to go easy on me during the competition and deliberately let me win." Competition. The only thing on her mind was that match. Namu Kyo was very curious. Was this competition that important to her? He really wanted to know what she was thinking in that head of hers, but he did not have time to find out right now. He had to go to the hot spring before the poison flared up again. "Come, let's go down the mountain." He raised his cloak and wrapped it around her. Then he carried her on his back and brought her down a mountain. "Your Highness!" The carriage driver was waiting at the bottom of the mountain, and when he saw this, he quickly came forward. He had received Namu Kyo's signal to release the fireworks just now. "Send her back. Remember, if she loses a single hair, this prince will cut off your head." Namu Kyo placed her in the carriage. She had already fainted from losing too much blood, and her face was as white as paper. Her long eyelashes hung down, covering her eyes. He looked at her with a complicated gaze. He had never understood her before. Astra's Chinning felt that she had slept for a long, long time. She was very tired, and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. In her haze, she heard an angry voice roaring. "Why isn't she awake yet? You quack doctor, come, take her out and chop her into meat paste to feed the dogs." She finally recovered her senses. Her eyelashes slightly moved, and she slowly opened her eyes. A tall figure was standing in front of her bed, roaring at an old man that looked like a doctor. That old man kept kowtowing, kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. She turned her eyes and recognized that the angry tall man was Namu Kyo. "What, did he want to kill someone again?" Your Highness." She opened her mouth to speak. Her voice was hoarse and did not seem like her voice at all. What was wrong with her? She wanted to sit up, but as soon as she raised her arm, it softly fell down. "You're awake?" Namu Kyo suddenly turned around, looking surprised and happy. His hand quickly caught her falling body, and then he sat down on the bed, letting her lean against his chest. His chest was strong, and his muscles were full and supple. It was very comfortable to lean on, but his masculine scent also assaulted her nose, causing her to frown slightly. She did not want to be this close to him, but she knew that if she refused, it would only make him angry. She did not want to be so close to him, but she knew that if she said no, it would only make him angry, so she used a tactful way. As expected, when Namu Qo heard this, he immediately got up and helped her lie back down. He stood by the bed and looked at her. Is this better? His voice actually had a hint of gentleness. Chun Chun Shi Chun Ti. Chun Chun. Of Dr. Chun Chun Ti of Chun. Chun. All right, this crown prince will make him scram. Quack scram. Namu Qo kicked the doctor's butt, and the doctor scrammed out as if he was pardoned. Chapter 630. There was still time to practice. What she was most worried about was that she didn't have enough time. The method that Namu Qo taught her was not hard, and she quickly understood it. She just needed to master it, and if she had time to practice a few more times, she was confident that she could win this competition. Is there anything to eat? I'm hungry. She looked at Namu Qo, who was standing in front of the bed. Ever since she woke up, he had been staring at her. His cheetah-like eyes sparkled with a light that she could not understand. His eyes were no longer looking at her like he was looking at prey. Rather, it was like he was studying her. But she did not have the mind to care about what he was thinking. She wanted her body to quickly recover, and what she needed was a healthy body. Feeding him blood had made her lose a lot of blood. Her body felt very light, and she did not even have the strength to walk. Her eyes were turning black, but she believed that as long as she rested for 2 days and ate some blood-replenishing food, she would be fine. She still had important things to do. All right, what do you want to eat? I'll immediately tell them to make it. He suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. He should have already told the chefs to prepare food, but he did not think of it at all. When she was unconscious, he had been guarding her bed, not even blinking. He did not feel hungry, so he did not think that the first thing she wanted to do after waking up would be eat. I want to eat spinach and liver porridge, red date and longan soup, chestnut glutinous rice cake, black chicken lotus root stew, and a large bowl of hot brown sugar ginger tea. The sooner the better. Ning was not polite with him as she listed several blood-replenishing dishes and porridge in one breath. I'll remember it. Wait a bit. This prince will have them send it over immediately. When Namu Qo heard these strange dishes, he slightly knit his brows. There were some things that he had never heard of before, but it didn't matter. As long as she ordered it, even if it was dragon liver or phoenix gall, he would give it to her. He sent people to gather all the chefs in the kitchen. Then he read out the names of these dishes and had them immediately make them, not missing a single one. The chefs looked at each other and then kneeled down together. Your Highness, everything else is fine, but it is currently April and the lotus flowers have not even bloomed yet. So how could there be lotus roots? Without lotus roots, no matter how skilled we are, we can't make a dish like black chicken lotus root. When Namu Qo heard this, he wanted to kill someone. But if he killed these chefs, who would make food for her? Waste, you're all waste. What use do you have for this prince? Isn't it just lotus roots? There is no need to be afraid of money. The cooks muttered in their hearts. In this world, there are many things that money can't buy. Even if you're the crown prince, you can't let the June camellia bloom in April. In the summer, you can't eat winter bamboo shoots, and in the winter, you can't eat summer broad beans. But no one dared to say these words. No one dared to say it. This prince doesn't care what method you use. You must get the lotus root, otherwise, humph. Namu Qo's voices words, leaving behind a bunch of cooks complaining to the heavens. The crown prince was clearly making trouble for no reason, but they did not dare to disobey. Piping hot dishes were brought in one by one. Namu Qo sat in front of the bed and personally fed her. Your Highness, I'll eat it myself. Chun Ning wanted to take the spoon from his hand, but he did not let go. Chapter 631. He fed her the soup one mouthful at a time. His movements were very careful and gentle, completely different from the wild and tyrannical him. But Chun Ning knew that even wolves, tigers, and leopards would occasionally show a warm side, but that did not mean they wouldn't eat people. After she ate her fill, she closed her eyes to rest. Although her eyes were closed, she could still feel his gaze on her face, not leaving it at all. "Your Highness, why do you keep staring at me? If it's because I saved you, then you don't have to. I don't like owing other people favors. You saved me, so I saved you. We don't owe each other anything." She opened her eyes and met his gaze. "You saved me because you couldn't bear to let me die and because you've already begun to like me." He suddenly opened his mouth and spoke in a confident tone. Ning almost couldn't help spitting out. She stared at him, not understanding where this man's mysterious confidence came from. "Your Highness, I don't." Before she could finish, he covered her mouth. His large palm was tightly pressed against her lips, making her unable to say anything. He revealed a smile that was filled with confidence. "I know you won't admit it, but your West Chu women don't mean what they say. Their mouths say they don't want it, but their hearts actually want it. You're not like our East Chin women at all. Liking is liking and loving is loving. After you marry me, I won't allow you to say no to what you mean. Do you understand? Marry you? What did I agree to marry you?" Her eyes opened wide as she stared at him. "Are you so happy that you went crazy when you heard that I wanted to marry you? Look at how big your eyes are. Are you very happy? I promise you, I'm willing to take you as my only woman and become my crown princess. In the future, you can enjoy the honorable honor with me, and everyone will look up to you. As for your current husband, Chu Xiaoyang, he will crawl at your feet and look up to you." Chu Xiaoyang's face darkened. He laughed in high spirits and was in high spirits. Ning didn't know whether to laugh or cry hearing this. He released the hand covering her mouth and pulled her hand over. He rubbed the thick gauze on her wrist and looked at her without blinking. His eyes were surprisingly gentle. He said with a serious expression, "Ever since I was poisoned, my cold poison acted up almost every day. If I can't soak in sulfuric water, I need to drink hot blood to suppress the poison. My servants will always prepare the blood of all kinds of animals. There is chicken blood, duck blood, goat blood, and I don't know how many animals I've drunk over the years. But there has never been anyone like you who would use their blood to feed me. You are the only one. At that time, I was thinking that if I didn't die this time, I would marry this woman. So it was because of this. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have cut her blood to save him. She would have fed him the blood of some random animal, such as a rabbit or pheasant. If he wanted to repay her, she would have let him marry a rabbit or pheasant. Chapter 632. She was full of remorse, looking as if it was too late for regrets. You woman." Na Mu Qo stared at her and forcefully grinded his teeth. All the gratitude and tenderness in his heart flew away. Just a moment ago, he had wholeheartedly wanted to marry her and treat her gently, but now he just wanted to strangle her to death. It took a lot of effort for him to not reach out and grab her slender neck, but his face was already red from anger. His chest was heaving up and down as he panted like a bull. No, he couldn't let her continue like this. Otherwise, he would be angered to the point of spitting out blood. He lifted his leg and kicked over the table in front of her bed. The bowls and jars on the table, as well as the soup and water, spilled all over the floor, dirtying the beautiful carpet. "Someone come," he loudly shouted, his voice shaking the roof. Servants immediately ran in with a look of fear and knelt on the ground. "Take this woman." He pointed at Ning, filled with rage. But when his eyes fell on her face, he found that she had closed her eyes, not even looking at him. Although she had eaten and drunk the blood-replenishing soup, her face was still white to the point of being transparent. It was like fine porcelain, light and thin, making his heart soften. The servants all opened their eyes wide as they waited for his orders. "Take away all the chefs that made food for this woman, and give each of them 20 whips. What kind of crappy food is this? It's just too disgusting." After he finished shouting, he took large steps and left without looking back. When his footsteps could no longer be heard, Ning finally opened her eyes. Looking at the embroidered curtains on top of the bed, her lips curled into a faint smile. However, the smile quickly disappeared from her face. She gave a soft sigh and closed her eyes once again. Namu Qo was a very smart person and could be said to be evenly matched with her. In a battle of wits with him, she had to focus 120% to gain the upper hand. At the same time, she had to be on guard against him setting traps for her. He really was a hard man to deal with. It was a good thing that she had achieved her goal of getting close to him this time. She had learned how to observe, and now she just needed to practice. She wanted to leave this place, but under Namu Qo's shadow, it was hard for her to calm down and think carefully. Pong! A loud sound came from outside the window, making her jump in fright. Through the paper window, she saw a dazzling red light rise into the sky, and her heart couldn't help skipping a beat. Could it be that someone was setting off fireworks? She sat up on the bed, grabbed a cloak, and put it on. She walked to the window and pushed it open. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Flowers bloomed in the night sky once again, and a rain of petals fell. One after another, the meteors rose into the air, bloomed, and withered. The most beautiful thing is also the easiest to disappear. The moment you see it, it has already started to disappear from your eyes. Although fireworks are beautiful, they are too sad. That's why when I'm alone, I never look at fireworks. These fireworks are all set off for you. A magnetic voice rang out like the gurgling of water. It was as beautiful and moving as a poem. She looked above it and she heard it. She was so engrossed that she didn't even know when he had appeared beside her. This time, he did not look at her. Instead, he stared at the dazzling flowers in the sky. He was no longer angry. His face was calm, but his eyes were slightly sad. Chapter 633. The hardest thing to obtain is also the most precious. I don't like fireworks, but I like you. Can you stay by my side and be with me forever? In the sky filled with fireworks, he slightly lowered his head. His eyes were focused on her as he spoke with a sincere voice. He didn't have his usual aloof and arrogant tone. His words did not move her, but his voice had a bewitching charm to it. It was like the love song he sang, making it hard for people to resist. She looked down and said in a soft voice, "You like me because my eyes look like Elysian? But let me tell you, I am not Elysian. There is only one Elysian in this world, but she is already dead. She liked another person, and you couldn't accept it, so you killed her. Although I am not Elysian, I am the same as her, liking another person. Moreover, once I like someone, I will not change my mind. I will wholeheartedly love him, and even if a good man appears in front of me, I will not like him, including you." Namu Qo. Namu Qo's chin tightened, and his brows slowly lowered. A trace of anger appeared at the corner of his eyes. "The man you like, is he the emperor of your West Chu country? Do you know that even if he is the emperor in front of this prince, he still has to be respectful and lower his head to this prince? Tell me, if this prince asks him for you, will he give you to this prince?" Qinning's heart skipped a beat. Qinning's heart skipped a beat. She looked up and stared at him. "You can try. You are quite confident in him. You still have some value to him now, so of course he won't agree. But what if you lose to this prince after tomorrow's competition? Do you think he will still care about you and treat you like a treasure? To him, you're just a useless tool. When this prince asks him for you at that time, do you think he will agree?" Namu Qo looked at her with smiling eyes. "Tomorrow? Is tomorrow the day of the competition?" She sucked in a breath of cold air. "Did I sleep for a day and a night? That's right. Do you still think you can beat me now? Because you saved me, I'm willing to give you a chance. If you agree, I can deliberately lose to you in tomorrow's competition and let you gain face in front of everyone. If you don't agree, the result will be the same, but you will become a gift from the West Chu Emperor to this prince. Little beauty, you are very smart. Which one will you choose?" He looked at her with a smile, looking very confident. Qining bit her lower lip and stared at him. "Namu Qo, I want to openly compete with you, and I will definitely win. If I win, you have to promise me one thing. Your Highness, you won't regret it, right?" He rubbed his smooth chin and knit his brows. "You really want to lose?" "Wrong, I want to win." "You can't win," he said conceitedly. "Then let's wait and see tomorrow." "Your Highness, I want to leave this place." "You won't stop me, right? Then we'll wait and see tomorrow." Your Highness, I want to leave this place. You won't stop me, right? She was like a pigeon with its legs tied up. No matter how far she flew, as long as that string was in his hand, she would fly back and land in his palm sooner or later. Chapter 634. What's yours? He blinked. That imperial edict. Namu Kyo said in a strange voice. Isn't the one you love the emperor? What do you want that he won't give to you? Why do you care about this imperial edict? Could it be he isn't completely devoted to you? Chen Ning said with a serious face. Your Highness, your curiosity is too strong. This is a matter between me and him. It has nothing to do with you. I just think that you have eyes but cannot see, loving the wrong person. Just like Li Xian, loving a bastard that isn't worth loving at all. Her face sunk. Even if he is a bastard, as long as I like him, he is the man that is worth loving the most in this world. Is your Highness satisfied with this answer? Good, satisfied, very satisfied. He revealed a smile that was filled with confidence. I will let you personally see and hear with your own ears how he will send you into this prince's embrace. That day will never come. She raised her head. Since it's like this prince will send you to see the person you love. If you have anything to say, then tell him. Because after tomorrow, you will be this prince's woman. Ha 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 ha. He gave a proud laugh and called over the servants, ordering them to prepare a carriage to send her out. She changed back into her original clothes and held the imperial edict in her bosom, just like when she came. When she walked out of the room, Namu Kyo was standing in the courtyard, his tall and burly figure stretched out by the moonlight. His face was facing the moonlight, his deep and striking features, which were originally sharp and threatening, became gentle because of the moonlight. He looked like he was waiting for his beloved lover. Chen Ning walked past him without looking at him, not even looking at him. Ning. Suddenly, she heard his deep, beautiful voice behind her. I'll wait for you to come back. His voice was very low as a whisper. She believed that only she could hear these words. However, she did not turn around or stop walking, just walking straight ahead. This was not a place she wanted to stay, so how could she come back? Never. Where her heart was, that was where she wanted to stay. A beautiful and enchanting song rang out. This was Namu Kyo's song. It was low and gentle, filled with magnetism. This song even intoxicated the moonlight, and the night became blurred because of his song. The song seemed to be telling a story. A proud young man fell in love with a beautiful young girl. They ran across the prairies, chasing each other, playing and laughing at every corner of the prairies. Then one day, the young man suddenly disappeared, and the young man stood on the prairies. Day after day, year after year, he waited. He sang this sad song, waiting for the young girl until her hair turned white. She walked out of the courier house's main entrance in one breath. The deep and touching song still lingered in her ears, especially the last few melodious notes, which were full of pain and expectation. Listening to it in the quiet night, it made her heart tremble. The corner of her eyes felt itchy and hot. She reached out to touch it and actually felt her hand full of moisture. Unknowingly, she had been moved to tears by his singing. Chen Ning quickened her steps, becoming faster and faster as she began to run. She covered her ears until she could not hear a single trace of that demonic song. She panted as she leaned against the wall, calming her heart that was being shaken by the song. Chapter 635. She gave a short cry of shock and suddenly turned around. Her eyes met a pair of eyes that were like cold stars. For a moment, she thought that she was in a dream. How could she see Mo Chuan? Impossible, impossible. She wanted to reach out to rub her eyes, but in the next moment, she was tightly held in a warm and familiar embrace. That cool and familiar aura came over. It was the smell of Mo Chuan. She greedily breathed in and wrapped her arms around his waist. His waist was very strong, and because of her embrace, his arms tightened, holding her even tighter. Ning Inger, I've waited here for you for a long, long time. You're finally here. His voice sounded in her ears, filled with pain and passion. His large hands stroked her smooth hair, and he closed his eyes. The joy of regaining what he had lost completely drowned him. The two of them tightly hugged each other, no one saying a word. After an unknown amount of time, he finally let go of his arms. She looked up in his embrace, and the faint moonlight shined on her beautiful face. Her eyes that were like the spring fog and autumn moon sparkled, with long eyelashes that were wet. She looked at him without blinking, looking at his familiar handsome face. His eyes that were like the mountains in the distance. His eyes were even deeper than the night sky, filled with endless emotions that made her deeply immersed in them. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. It was just a gentle touch at first, but after that, he couldn't control himself. His kiss became hot and intense. That heat passed through her lips to her heart, making her face turn red and her heart beat faster. She couldn't breathe and couldn't speak. The two of them held each other's breaths as they hugged each other. Their heads touched and their lips touched. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and he hugged her slender waist tightly, almost hugging her whole body in his arms. The world was spinning and her heart was in ecstasy. She couldn't think after being kissed by him. In a daze, the arms around his neck powerlessly fell, and her body also softened. Mo Chuan's arms wrapped around her, stopping her from falling down. He reluctantly moved his lips away from hers. His eyes fell onto her face, and his heart suddenly tightened. Her eyes were tightly closed, and her lips were bright red from his kiss. But her face was very pale, almost like snow. He had never seen her face this white before. Was she sick, or was she injured, asleep, or fainted? He rubbed her nose and found that her breathing was normal, but she had lost consciousness and was softly lying in his embrace. Could she have fainted from his kiss? When Mo Chuan thought of this possibility, his face turned hot. He was indeed a little too enthusiastic just now. The kind of enthusiasm that came from the bottom of his heart burned his whole body, making him completely unaware of what he was doing. He was like a lion that had been imprisoned for a long time and suddenly broke out of its cage. Then, he became unscrupulous and tyrannical. That intoxicating feeling made his brain feel like it was about to explode, and he couldn't care about anything else. He actually ignored her feelings. He tenderly kissed her lips. His arms held her soft as cotton body, letting her sleep more comfortably in his embrace. Chapter 636. Turning Around. Mo Chuan prepared to carry her away, but as soon as he turned around, his eyes froze. On the other side of the alley, there was a tall and burly figure silently standing there. It was unknown how long he had been standing there and how long he had been looking at her. His back was facing the moonlight, and he was wearing black tight-fitting clothes. His black cloak was like the wings of a black eagle, dancing in the wind. Seeing this figure, Mo Chuan's eyes turned as cold as ice and his arms holding her unknowingly tightened. Although Namu Kuo did not say a single word, Mo Chuan knew who he was. Just like how Namu Kuo knew who he was. The two of them stared at each other. They were separated by several feet, but there was an undercurrent flowing between them. Umph! Finally, Namu Kuo gave a cold snort. His sharp and cold eyes slowly moved from Mo Chuan's face to look at her in his embrace. She was so quiet that she looked like she was asleep, but the corners of her lips were slightly curled up, bringing with it an intoxicating sweetness and smile. This was something he had never seen on her face in the past 3 days. It was a sincere smile that came from the bottom of her heart. So when she was facing the man she truly liked, she would smile this sweetly and this enchanting. It was like a heavy hammer slamming into his heart. He felt a bitter and astringent taste in his mouth. Namu Kuo suddenly turned around and left with large steps. His black figure quickly disappeared into the night, disappearing without a trace like a ghost. Mo Chuan looked at his back as he left, and his dark eyes sank. This man that suddenly appeared gave off a strong sense of oppression. He was like a wild beast waiting for an opportunity, staring at her like a tiger. He couldn't help holding her tightly, like if he let go, she would be taken away by someone else. His eyes suddenly fell onto her wrists, and his breathing couldn't help becoming tight. Her wrists were wrapped in thick bandages, and there were faint traces of blood on them. It was clear that she was injured. Mo Chuan's heart filled with pain as he held her and quickly left. Chen Ning had slept for an unknown amount of time. Because of the large amount of blood loss and the large amount of brain training she had done that night, her mind was in a very tense state, not having a good rest at all. Especially when she saw Mo Chuan before she fainted, it made her mind relax. Therefore, she slept very soundly and soundly. She didn't even have any dreams. She finally woke up and opened her eyes. She was in a very happy mood as she blurted out, Mo Chuan. She remembered his wild and fiery kiss that made it hard for her to breathe. Then she felt the world spin around her, and she didn't know anything else. Now that she thought about it, she still felt her face heat up. His kisses had always been gentle and lingering, but she never thought that when he became passionate, he would be so crazy, as if they were parting forever. Papa, what nonsense was he thinking? How could he think of these four inauspicious words? Hey! Xiaoru was lying in front of her bed, sleeping in a daze. Suddenly hearing Chen Ning's voice, she woke up from her dream and was pleasantly surprised. Chen Ning blinked. Chen Ning blinked. Looking at the disheveled Xiaoru, she felt that it was kind and unreal. She found that when she woke up, she had returned to the eldest princess palace. Did Mo Chuan send her back? Chapter 637. Xiaoru, what time is it now? She suddenly sat up on the bed, but because she was too fast, she felt a wave of dizziness and her body swayed. Xiaoru quickly supported her and placed a soft pillow behind her, letting her lean against it. Then she took out a hot towel and wiped her face as she chattered away. It's 2:45 in the morning right now. Young miss, you can't move around. The doctor has seen your illness and said that you are lacking blood, so you need to rest in bed. Young miss, I haven't seen you in a few days. How did you become this skinny? Last night, Qian Duo. Oh no, it was the Emperor. When the Emperor sent you back, your face did not have a single trace of blood. This servant was almost scared to death. It was a good thing the Emperor said that you only fainted, and he even invited the doctor to take your pulse. That's right, the doctor said that you have to drink your medicine. As soon as you wake up, this servant will go get the medicine for you. Xiaoru threw the towel away and quickly ran out. Chen Ning didn't even have time to ask her a few more questions. 2:45 in the morning? She remembered that Namu Qo said that today was the day of the competition between East Qin and West Chu. The time was at noon, and the location was at the eastern field, so she could still make it in time. Xiaoru quickly came back, holding a bowl of steaming hot medicine. She carefully blew on it before placing it in front of Chen Ning's lips. Young miss, quickly drink your medicine. This is the Emperor's order. He said that if you don't drink your medicine, he will. Xiaoru tilted her head and thought of something before saying, he said that he will personally feed it to you. After saying this, she couldn't help muttering, this servant doesn't understand what the Emperor means, but the Emperor said that the young miss will understand. Chen Ning's face turned a little red. Of course she knew what Mo Chuan meant. I'll drink it. She took the bowl and drank it in one gulp. Giving the bowl of medicine to Xiaoru, she closed her eyes to rest for a bit before saying, Xiaoru, help me get a set of hunting clothes. I'm going out. She pulled off the blanket and prepared to get out of bed. Young miss, the Emperor and the doctor have said that you can't get out of bed right now, and you can't walk around. You have to lie down, and you can't go anywhere. Xiaoru was shocked and quickly supported her. I have a very important matter to do today. No matter how important it is, it can't be compared to the young miss body. Chen Ning's face sunk. Xiaoru, when did you become so disrespectful? You don't even listen to me? She acted like a master. No matter how unwilling Xiaoru was, she still obediently took out a set of hunting clothes and placed it in front of the bed. She got off the bed and her body swayed. Xiaoru quickly supported her and complained, Young miss, the doctor said you can't get off the bed. Xiaoru, help me get dressed. Chen Ning interrupted her. and slightly knit her brows. She was very dissatisfied with her current self. How could she ride a horse when she was so weak and fragile? If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have sacrificed so much blood to save Namu Kyo. With Xiao Ru's help, she finally put on her clothes and sat in front of the dresser. She saw her pale face in the mirror without a trace of blood. She did not like her sickly appearance, so she picked up the rouge she had never used before and lightly rubbed it on her cheeks, making her look even more beautiful. Xiao Ru blurted out, "Young miss, you look really good like this." Chapter 638. The sun shined brightly, and there were no clouds in the sky. On the eastern field, the flags fluttered. This was the first day of the West Shu and East Qin competition. There were 2 stands built on the large eastern field, one on the left and one on the right. There was a canopy on the stands that blocked the sun, and there were several dozen chairs placed on each side. The official competition time was set at noon, but when it was just past noon, the West Shu ministers had already arrived on the left stands. Each one of them had a worried look on their faces as they whispered to each other. There were 2 seats in the middle with a dragon and phoenix engraved on them. These 2 seats were prepared for Empress Dowager Zhou and the Emperor. Not long after, under the escort of the Imperial Army, Mo Chuan rode his horse in front and Empress Dowager Zhou's carriage in the back, appearing in front of the ministers. The ministers all stood up. Mo Chuan dismounted his horse and personally helped Empress Dowager Zhou off the sedan. Then he helped Empress Dowager Zhou step by step onto the high platform. "Greetings to the Emperor, Empress Dowager." The ministers all shouted out. "Everyone, no need to be so polite." Mo Chuan helped Empress Dowager Zhou into the phoenix chair. He looked over at the stands on the other side and saw that it was completely empty, without a single person. His heart was a bit surprised. The East Qin envoys haven't arrived yet. His brows slightly knit as he looked at the hourglass on the side. There was less than an hour left until noon. Could these East Qin people really have confidence in winning, and they didn't need to prepare ahead of time? Reporting to the Emperor, "The news this servant has heard is that the East Qin envoys left the guest post early in the morning and left the city. They haven't returned yet, and they haven't said a single word, so we don't know what happened." Xiao Si bowed as he replied, "Left the city?" When Mo Chuan heard this, he felt this was unbelievable. When the ministers heard this, they all began to make guesses. Time slowly passed, and it was getting closer and closer to noon, but not a single person from the East Qin envoys had appeared. The West Shu ministers all stood up and looked at the gate of the field, their hearts almost jumping out of their throats. In the large eastern field, other than the ministers, there were also several thousand royal guards, but everyone was holding their breath. The field was completely silent. Even a pin drop could be heard. This was because, according to the agreement, as long as one side didn't arrive at the time of the competition, it would be considered the winner. After a while, seeing that the sun was about to rise to the middle of the sky, some of the ministers could no longer contain their excitement and began to discuss spiritedly. It seems like East Qin is afraid of our West Shu country, so they didn't fight." That's right. How could they not say a single word and leave? In my opinion, their East Qin clearly knows they can't win against our King Jing'an, so they ran back to their country with their tails between their legs. Makes sense. At this moment, a loud dong was heard, followed by the sound of a huge cannon salute. This was the first cannon shot. As long as the East Qin envoys did not appear after the 3rd cannon shot, it would be equivalent to them forfeiting. Hundreds of pairs of eyes looked at the gate of the East drill ground, but there was no one there. The minister's laughter. Even Empress Dowager Zhou's brows couldn't help slightly twitching. Her tense face also softened. She had been on tenterhooks for the past few days and was most worried about this moment. Chapter 639. Mo Chuan shook his head. His eyes were glued to the field gates as he clenched his fists and said word for word, "He will definitely not give up." What did he mean? Empress Dowager Zhou was stunned. She found that she couldn't understand her son at all. "Don't. After the second cannon salute, the East Qin envoys still disappeared without a trace. The ministers were all excited as they clapped and laughed. There were already people congratulating Empress Dowager Zhou and Mo Chuan. Congratulations, Emperor. Congratulations, Empress Dowager. Our West Chu has already won the first round. Mo Chuan knit his brows and said in a deep voice, "It's not even noon yet. It's still too early to say victory." He thought of Na Mu Quo's determined gaze when he looked at Chen Ning last night, and his heart tightened. He did not believe that Na Mu Quo would easily admit defeat like this. The ministers were all stunned. At this time, there was the sound of horse hooves coming from a distance. The horse hooves were heading straight for the field, coming closer and closer with a very fast speed. It was like there were several dozen horses running together. Although they were running fast, they were moving in unison, with several hundred horse hooves landing on the ground at the same time. The faces of the people present couldn't help changing. Even those who didn't understand horsemanship could hear that it was very difficult for several dozen horses to maintain the same rhythm and landing on the ground at the same time. With a dong sound, the third cannon salute finally rang out. At the same time, a vigorous black horse galloped into the gate of the east drill ground. The rider was wearing a black cloak that fluttered behind him like a pair of black wings. A man and a horse, like a black lightning bolt, galloped into the drill ground, followed closely by dozens of people on horseback. They were all dressed in the same black, tight-fitting clothes, revealing their strong and burly figures. Hundreds of horse hooves galloped together, raising billowing smoke and dust on the track of the drill ground. The people in the stands couldn't help turning pale. The riding skills of this group of black, clothed people and their coordination was amazing. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that there was this kind of riding and coordination in this world. It was said that the East Qin people grew up on horses, but now they knew that seeing was believing and the rumors were not false. When he first saw the black, clothed man charge into the field, Mo Chuan's pupil shrank. His eyes were glued to the man's face the entire time, revealing an unconcealable anger and hatred. Last night, when the Grand Doctor had taken off the thick gauze wrapping around her wrists, he had seen a shocking scene. There were 2 deep wounds. Although the wounds were no longer bleeding after applying ointment, he could tell how deep the wounds were. Moreover, the cuts were on the blood vessels of her wrists. One could imagine how much blood she had lost at that time. No wonder her face was that pale. No wonder her body was weak. No wonder she was that weak. No wonder she was that weak. No wonder she had fainted. It was because of this. She didn't even need to think about it to know that these 2 deep wounds were caused by this man. Just how ruthless did he have to be to do such a thing to her? He would use this kind of cruel method to torture her. At that time, he was so angry that he wanted to rush into the post house and kill that man. He did not know how much strength he had to use to control himself and not make a move. He couldn't kill this man because he was the high and mighty East Qin crown prince. He was the mysterious envoy sent by East Qin to the West Chu country. Chapter 640. As the West Chu emperor, he could not disregard the West Chu citizens for his own selfishness. He could not break the peace between the 2 countries for her alone and let the flames of war reignite between the 2 countries. He could not let the previous East Qin emperor's head fall to the ground because of his own selfishness. So he could only endure it. Na Mu Quo's black horse ran under the stands and suddenly stopped. Its 4 hooves were nailed to the ground, not moving at all. Once this exquisite riding skill was revealed, the West Chu stands erupted with cheers. Na Mu Quo looked up, and his sharp features gave off a sharp aura. He slowly looked over the West Chu, stands like he was looking for someone. Mo Chuan's right hand in his sleeve slowly clenched into a fist as his eyes stared at him without blinking. The 2 people's eyes met in the air. Instantly, there was a flash of light, and sparks flew in all directions. Mo Chuan's face was as deep as water. His handsome face was filled with a gloomy aura. Namu Qo slightly raised his chin with a proud expression. He did not put Mo Chuan, the West Chu emperor, in his eyes at all. He gave a disdainful snort and looked away from Mo Chuan's face, continuing to look around the stands. He quickly looked around and did not find Chen Ning's figure. His two thick brows couldn't help knit together. Why did he not see her? Didn't they say that she was the one who was going to compete with him today? Could it be she wasn't? Namu Qo dismounted his horse and took large steps, walking onto the West Chu stands. The group of officials immediately let out a low buzz, one after another, trying to guess his origins. His aura was extraordinary, and behind him was the East Qin envoys. Even the East Qin envoys were behind him, so it could be seen that his identity was not simple. But during the banquet that night, this person did not appear. Who was he? Mo Chuan did not even look at the discussions around him or the ministers. He went up to the stands and directly walked over to Mo Chuan. He stopped 3 steps in front of him and placed his right hand on his left chest. He gave a slight nod to Mo Chuan and slowly said, Simiganla. His voice was low and beautiful, but no one could understand the words he said. It could be assumed that he was speaking in the East Qin language. Although they couldn't understand his words, seeing his arrogant and condescending expression, the West Chu ministers couldn't help feeling angry. No matter what the other side's background was, not kneeling in front of the emperor and not bowing at all, this was simply too humiliating. A translator walked forward 2 steps and slightly bowed to Mo Chuan before saying, Respected Emperor, this is my East Qin country's crown prince, Namu Qo. He has just greeted your majesty. The news of the East Qin crown prince coming to West Chu was only known to Mo Chuan and a few trusted ministers. Most of the people here did not know. When they heard the translation, they all took in a cold breath, and their eyes looking at Namu Qo became filled with respect. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Although this was Namu Qo's first time visiting West Chu, his title as the smartest person in the world had already spread across the 4 countries. It could be said that no one didn't know of him. So when the ministers heard that this arrogant eagle-like man in front of them was the East Qin crown prince, their faces couldn't help changing. Chapter 641. Everyone couldn't help looking at Chu Xiaobai. Chu Xiaobai already knew that the other side was the East Qin crown prince. He slowly stood up from his chair and coldly looked at Namu Qo. It's him. It's him who kidnapped Ning, from his side. It's him. Thinking of last night when he saw the wound on her wrist. Although Mo Chuan did not blame him, he was so ashamed that he almost wanted to kill himself. He hated himself for letting her follow the wolf, even though he knew that Namu Qo was an evil wolf. In the end, she was bitten and riddled with scars. If he knew that it would be like this, he would have stopped her no matter what, even if it went against her heart. Seeing Namu Qo at this time, and thinking that he was the one who harmed Ning, how could he not hate him? His hands tightly clenched into fists, and his chest felt like it was going to explode as a burst of anger filled his chest. His robe was as white as snow, and he was like a jade tree, dazzling the crowd, but his eyes were filled with flames of anger. So it's him. Namu Qo recognized Chu Xiaobai with a single glance. It was the beautiful youth that accompanied her on the night of the Lantern Festival. His eyes slightly narrowed and instantly became sharp. He looked over Chu Xiaobai a few times and gave a soft snort, revealing a look of contempt on his face. But although his face was filled with disdain, he couldn't help thinking that the West Chu people were not all weak chickens. That emperor called Mo Chuan had such a good appearance, and his martial arts skills were not weak. No wonder she fell in love with him. As for the beautiful youth in front of him, he was as beautiful as a painting. But he noticed that Chu Xiaobai's eyes were shining, like he was also a martial arts expert. But he was not afraid at all. In terms of martial arts, he did not believe that there was anyone stronger than him in this world. As long as he defeated these 2 enemies in front of her, he wasn't afraid she wouldn't fall in love with him. But what about her? Why didn't he see her? Could it be that the person sent by the West Chu country to compete with him was not her? His eyes were like a torch as he looked over the people in the stands, but he only saw 2 women. One was the white-haired and dignified Empress Dowager Zhou, and the other was a girl in her 20s. She was dressed luxuriously, wearing a dazzling red dress that gave off a heroic aura, but he did not see Chen Ning's figure. Kulisimilai, Namu Qo couldn't help asking with a look of doubt in his eyes. He was asking the translator standing behind him. The translator was bowing like a dog, but when he turned around to face the West Chu ministers, he immediately became arrogant as he puffed out his chest. Don't worry, I won't be able to answer your question. My family's crown prince wants to know, who are you sending to compete with him today? His West Chu language was very clear, but that arrogant look almost made everyone's lungs explode. Xiao Chen's words were very well. He was just a translator. Who was he putting on such an arrogant face for? Xiao teased Qing. Even if the other side was just a little translator, he was still someone by the East Qin crown prince's side. As a defeated country, they could never raise their heads in front of East Qin. They couldn't even offend a dog by the other side. Xiao Chen's choose prince. Chen's emote him. Chapter 642. He took a step forward and said in a cold voice, I've long heard of the title of the smartest person in the world, but the rumors are false, so this king wants to personally meet His Highness and ask the crown prince for advice. Namu Qo's eyes fell onto him again. With a contemptuous snort, he spoke in the East Qin language again. Although he could not understand it, Chu Xiaobai could hear the taunting tone in his voice. It's you? What kind of thing are you? Are you worthy of competing with this prince? The translator dutifully translated Namu Qo's words without missing a single word. Even his tone was impeccable. When his voice fell, the faces of the West Chu ministers all changed, becoming extremely ugly. It was like someone had slapped them in the face. The other side did not even put their King Jing in his eyes, and even called him a thing, but none of them dared to say a single word, and no one dared to refute him. It was all because the other side held their weakness in their hands that the other side had no fear. Chu Xiaobai's long brows jumped up. He suddenly reached out and heavily slapped the translator's mouth. The translator made a wah sound and spat out a mouthful of blood, as well as 2 white teeth. The West Chu ministers' hearts trembled as they looked at Chu Xiaobai in disbelief. No one thought that Chu Xiaobai would teach the translator a lesson. Although everyone wanted to slap him, they had to look at the master before hitting the dog. Hitting the translator was the same as slapping the East Qin crown prince's face. Even if they wanted to, they didn't have the guts. Although this slap could vent their anger, what would the consequences be? Everyone secretly shook their heads and their hearts. They thought that King Jing was still young and impulsive, not being able to keep his cool. This time he would be in big trouble. As expected, the translator immediately jumped up and pointed at Chu Xiaobai's nose as he shouted, You dare hit me? You, do you not want her life? Chu Xiaobai said with a cold laugh, This king is teaching you a lesson on behalf of the crown prince. What kind of thing do you think you are, daring to call yourself this prince? You are clearly humiliating the crown prince in front of everyone. Translate every word this king says to the crown prince. I believe that with a smart person like the crown prince, he will be able to tell right from wrong. This king wants to see whose head the crown prince will give the order to chop off. In the royal family's courtyard on the outskirts, he had personally heard Namu Qo speak fluent West Chu language. Not only could he understand it, he could also speak it. Although Chu Xiaobai did not understand why Namu Qo acted like he didn't understand and couldn't speak in front of everyone, he knew in his heart that Namu Qo could understand. So his words were meant for Namu Qo to hear and also for him to see. He wanted to see how long this arrogant East Qin crown prince could keep acting. Namu Qo's eyes focused on Chu Xiaobai's face. He didn't expect this kid to be such a powerful character. He had underestimated him. You. The translator's face turned green with anger, but his mouth was blocked by Chu Xiaobai's words. How could he have the guts to translate? What, you don't dare? Chu Xiaobai looked at him with cold eyes. Chapter 643. When the West Chu ministers saw this, they all cheered for Chu Xiaobai in their hearts, feeling very satisfied. Empress Dowager Zhou was in a depressed mood, but she couldn't help revealing a faint smile at this time. Her eyes filled with praise as she looked at Chu Xiaobai. This king has always heard that East Qin is a large country, a country of etiquette, but seeing it once is better than hearing it 100 times. I never thought that although the crown prince is a talented person, the people around him do not understand etiquette at all. Not bowing to my country's emperor and not kneeling down, this kind of rude behavior, truly throwing away the face of the East Qin country's ruler. Chu Xiaobai coldly said again. Hearing this, the translator's face turned from red to white. He had indeed used the prestige of the crown prince to not bow to the West Chu emperor, but Chu Xiaobai had pointed out his mistake in front of everyone. He couldn't help revealing an awkward expression as he secretly looked at Namu Qiu, not knowing what to do. As an envoy, your every word and action represents your country's dignity and style. This translator did not bow to my country's emperor, but do you not bow to your country's ruler? Chu Xiaobai's words were sharp and aggressive. The translator was speechless and could not reply. Lackadaily, Namu Qiu suddenly spoke out, saying several East Qin words in one breath. His cold eyes looked at the translator. The translator could not raise his head from the criticism, but after hearing Namu Qiu's words, he raised his head and became like a proud rooster. He raised his chin and said, "The customs of each country are different, so the etiquette is also different. For example, in my country, we only need to bow to people of high status, and that is the most respectful etiquette. But your country needs to kowtow to the emperor. My East Qin men have gold under their knees. We will never kneel to others. Even if we are facing your country's emperor, we cannot. I have already bowed to your country's emperor according to my East Qin country's etiquette. As for kowtowing, that is a completely unreasonable request." When the ministers heard this, they knew that it was purely sophistry and their chests were filled with rage. They could all see that the translator's attitude had suddenly become strong. It was clear that he had been instructed by the East Qin crown prince. What did this mean? The East Qin crown prince could understand the West Chu language, but he clearly understood it, but he pretended like he didn't understand. He wanted the translator to repeat every word. What kind of situation was this? Everyone was completely puzzled. Chu Xiaobai said with a cold smile, "That's right, the customs of our two countries are different, but I believe you've heard of the phrase, do as the Romans do before, right? Since you've come to my West Chu country, you have to follow my West Chu country's rules. This is a matter of heaven and earth. My West Chu country's way of showing respect is to kneel down. If you really respect my country, you should follow my country's etiquette. Your country regards kneeling as a humiliation, but to us, this is the highest respect." As soon as he finished speaking, he won a round of applause from the officials. King Jing and his King Jing and words is right. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well said. The translator's face alternated between red and white. He stole another glance at Namu Qiu, hoping to receive pointers from the crown prince. Namu Qiu's lips were tightly pressed together. His face was expressionless, and he did not say a word. Chapter 644. Of course, Namu Qiu knew that he was being rude, but how could he bow to these West Chu people that he didn't even put in his eyes? He could not do it no matter what. Chu Xiaobai naturally knew that it was impossible for the East Qin crown prince to kneel to Mo Chuan, but if even a little translator by the crown prince's side didn't kneel to the emperor, once this matter was spread, the West Chu country would become a laughingstock. His cold eyes looked at the translator, and he said, "Sir Translator, since you are familiar with the customs of the two countries, you should know that in my West Chu, kneeling is respected, and in your country, taking off your hat is respected. If my country sends an envoy to your country to see your country's emperor and refuses to take off his hat, what will your country's emperor do? Do you think he will give the order to cut off my country's envoy's head?" The translator's body trembled. When he looked at Namu Qiu again, his back was covered in a cold sweat. According to the customs, He should indeed kneel down to the West Chu Emperor, but he had received the orders of the Crown Prince. He wanted to give them a show of strength in front of the West Chu ministers and give them face, so they wouldn't dare resist. But he never thought that a King Jing and would jump out. This young man was young and had a beautiful appearance, but his lips were like spears and his tongue was like arrows. Every word he said hit his sore spot. Namu Qo took a deep look at Chu Xiaobai, looking at him in a new light. He nodded to the interpreter very slowly. With the Crown Prince's orders, the translator let out a sigh of relief. He bent his knees and kneeled down to Mo Chuan. He followed the West Chu customs, kneeling down 3 times and kowtowing 9 times. The East Qin envoy greets the emperor and wishes the emperor a long and peaceful life. The envoy is a guest from afar. You may rise, Mo Chuan said in a soft voice. The translator finally stood up and took 2 steps back, standing behind Namu Qo in a well-behaved manner. The arrogant expression on his face had disappeared quite a bit. The West Chu ministers all felt their faces light up, and they couldn't help giving Chu Xiao by a thumbs up in their hearts. King Jing An's words were very reasonable, making this arrogant translator kneel down to the emperor with just a few words. This was truly beautiful. Namu Qo couldn't help giving a snort. He did not care about this little fight, but the person he wanted to see had not appeared yet, so his heart was a bit anxious. Dranamaba. He said some gibberish East Qin language to the translator. The translator nodded and bowed in agreement. He turned his head and translated Namu Qo's words out loud. My Royal Highness the Crown Prince said that it's getting late. Let's start the competition that we've agreed on. My country's Royal Highness the Crown Prince is going to fight. I wonder who will your country send? I don't know if your ears are bad or your eyes are bad. Didn't this king just say that? This prince wishes to challenge your country's crown prince and see who's better. Shouti, Chu curled his and said. How could the translator not know that he was scolding his master in a roundabout way? His face slightly reddened, and he translated these words for Namu Qo to hear. In fact, Namu Qo did not need him to translate. He had already heard everything clearly. He didn't know what had happened. Why was it that he was supposed to compete with her? But the person suddenly changed. However, the result was the same. No matter who it was, they would lose without a doubt. Chapter 645. Namu Qo arrogantly nodded. After saying a few words in the East Qin language, he turned around and walked down the stairs with large steps. His black cloak fluttered behind him, and in the blink of an eye, he was back on his extraordinary black horse. He held his head high, and his figure on the back of the horse seemed even more tall and straight. My family's crown prince said that no matter who is competing, we should immediately begin. The translator translated Namu Qo's words. Chu Xiaobai nodded. When he was prepared to leave the stands, he heard the translator say, the crown prince said that for the sake of fairness, this stone tablet will be written in both countries' languages. Half will be East Qin, and the other half will be West Chu. I think your country has no objections, right? Hearing this, Chu Xiaobai's footsteps stopped, and he turned around. Even Mo Chuan's eyes narrowed, and his heart became heavy. The West Chu ministers couldn't help whispering. Everyone felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't say what was wrong. Only Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai knew that the East Qin crown prince was speaking about fairness on the surface, but he was actually digging a large and deep pit for the West Chu country. Because when the East Qin country had proposed the reading the steel from a horse method, they were all shocked by this almost impossible competition, completely ignoring the difference in the two languages. Only when the translator said this did everyone wake up. But they couldn't refute this suggestion because they couldn't find a single reason. The eyes of the people in the stands looking at Namu Qo filled with respect and fear once again. This East Qin crown prince was truly the smartest person in the world. Like this, their East Qin was already in an invincible position. This was because everyone could see that the East Qin crown prince could understand the West Chu language, so it was very likely he could understand the West Chu language. But what about King Jingen? He didn't understand their East Chin language or language at all. With this, it was clear who was better and who was worse. It could be said that without even needing to compete, they had already lost 99% of the time. Xiao Bai, do you understand the East Chin language? Mo Chuan said in a deep voice. Chu Xiao Bai slightly shook his head. This minister doesn't understand, but this minister will try his best. This minister must win for the citizens and for her. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes firm and resolute. He turned around and strode down the stairs, mounting a snow-white steed. Xiao Bai, royal aunt believes that you can win. The eldest princess charged into the stands and shouted at him from below the stands. Chu Xiao Bai raised his head and revealed a faint smile at the eldest princess Xiao Bai. Chu Xiao Bai looked up and revealed an incomparably brilliant smile at the eldest princess. Of the Chu Xiao Xiao Chu. The translator loudly said, His Highness said that the words on the stone tablet can be written by your country and the contents can be chosen by your country, but it has to be half East Chin and half West Chu. He said that he wants you to lose convincingly. Hearing this, the West Chu people all revealed looks of anger. Even Empress Dowager Zhou, who had good self-control, couldn't help slamming her cane down and saying in a low voice, What is this? The envoys in the East Chin stand were all filled with praise. Chapter 646. Mo Chuan's eyes swept over the ministers and fell onto a single person. Husband Yi, he slowly said, This commoner is here. Yi Tingxian immediately stood up and walked in front of the emperor, bowing down. He did not have an official position, but everyone knew that he was the future husband, so the emperor and the eldest princess looked at him favorably. So although he was a commoner, he could still participate in politics. This one knows that you are knowledgeable and have some knowledge of East Chin's language. Your calligraphy can be considered one of the best in the capital, so this stone tablet will be personally written by you. As for the content, you could decide for yourself. This commoner will follow your orders. Yi Tingxian never thought that Mo Chuan would place this heavy burden on his shoulders. He suddenly felt like it was hard to breathe, but he couldn't reject it. The eldest princess' eyes lit up. She returned to Yi Tingxian's side and heavily patted his shoulder. Tingxian, write it well. You have to let Xiao Bai win. Yi Tingxian looked at the eldest princess and didn't say anything. His lips curled into a bitter smile. Of course he wanted Chu Xiao Bai to win, but did his thoughts have any use? Unlu, don't make it hard for husband Yi. If we win, we have to win honorably, and if we lose, we have to lose cleanly. We definitely can't cheat and let East Chin see our West Chu as a joke. Mo Chuan's face sunk as he reprimanded the eldest princess. The eldest princess knew that she was being a bit whimsical. She gave a sad sigh and whispered in a low voice, It would be good if Ninger wasn't injured. Xiao Bai admires her so much. She must have something special about her. I believe that if Ninger was here, we would definitely win. Mo Chuan's heart filled with pain, and he couldn't help looking into the distance. It was the direction of the eldest princess palace. That's right, how could he not hope this? If she was here, but she was injured and had lost a large amount of blood, making her body weak. Seeing her pale as paper face and her unconscious appearance, his heart was filled with unbearable pain. He wished he could be injured for her and bleed for her. In this kind of situation, how could he let her participate in the competition? Therefore, he ordered the imperial physician to add some sleeping medicine to the medicine so that she could sleep for a few more hours. When she woke up, the competition would already be over. Humph! That bastard Xiaoyang, he was truly outrageous. Xiao Bai was working for the country, but what about him? He didn't even show his face for such a big matter. When this princess sees him, I'll definitely give him a good whipping. The eldest princess found it hard to calm down and couldn't help directing her anger at Chu Xiaoyang. Mo Chuan finally noticed that Chu Xiaoyang really wasn't here. He had something on his mind the entire time, so he didn't notice it until the eldest princess said it. Xiao Si, where's King Ding Yuan? He turned around. Xiao Si replied, this servant doesn't know. King Ding Yuan has not shown himself today. Perhaps he was delayed by something and couldn't make it in time? Delayed by something? What matter could be bigger than the competition between East Qin and West Chu? Mo Chuan knit his brows, and a bad premonition appeared in his heart. Chu Xiaoyang, he wouldn't be looking for her, right? His breathing stopped for a moment. Xiao Si, immediately go to the eldest princess palace and go see her. He ordered Xiao Si in a low voice, not wanting Empress Dowager Zhou to hear him. Chapter 647. Xiao Si blinked and suddenly understood something. He involuntarily said, it can't be, right? You talk too much. Quickly go. Mo Chuan stared at him. Yes, this servant will immediately go. Xiao Si immediately ran down the stands, jumping onto a horse and galloping away. At this time, there was already a tall stone tablet in front of the stands. Yi Tingxian was standing in front of the stone tablet, quickly writing. Namu Qiu and Chu Xiaobai were already blindfolded, standing 100 meters away on the track. 100 meters away, not to mention blindfolded. Even if they didn't, they wouldn't be able to see the words on the stone tablet. Yi Tingxian was writing a West Chu ancient song poem with a total of 126 words. Because it was an ancient poem, the words were very profound. He was using the ancient seal script, which was curvy and simple. Even a shallow person would not be able to understand what was written on the stone tablet, not to mention understanding the meaning of the poem. The reason why Yi Tingxian chose this poem and the words he wrote was because he had spent quite a bit of thought. He knew that the East Qin crown prince could understand the West Chu language, but he didn't think that the other side would have studied the West Chu ancient seal and ancient song poems. However, Chu Xiaobai was talented in both literature and martial arts. He had learned literature at the age of 3 and could recite the ancient song poems at the age of 9, so he had the upper hand in terms of literacy. As for the East Qin language, there were many ways to write it. Yi Tingxian chose the simplest one, which was similar to the West Chu language. Each stroke was written very clearly, penetrating through the paper. He believed that even if Chu Xiaobai could not remember the entire text, he would still be able to remember 50 to 60% of it. This way, he would have a higher chance of winning. He deliberately slowed down his writing speed. In the depths of his heart, he was still hoping that Chun Ning would wake up and come to participate in this competition. He did not know why, but he had a deep impression of this girl that he had only seen a few times and had only spoken to a few times. Especially when he saw her bright and intelligent eyes, he believed that she had the ability to win. But when he finished writing and looked up at the gate, he still did not see Chun Ning's figure. He put down the brush in his hand and couldn't help letting out a long sigh. He had already done everything he could. Now the fate of West Chu was in Chu Xiaobai's hands. At this time, not only was he thinking about Chun Ning, even Chu Xiaobai, who was riding far away, was thinking about Chun Ning. But he was different from Yi Tingxian. He hoped that he could represent her to fight and win this battle. Then he would personally tell her the good news. His eyes were covered with a piece of white cloth, and he couldn't see anything, but in front of his eyes, it was as if he could see her smiling face and her clear and bright eyes. It was as if she was smiling and saying to him, Xiaobai, I believe you can win. You must win. Help me teach that bastard East Qin crown prince a lesson. Ninger, don't worry. I will definitely win. I will take revenge for you. I will make him lose convincingly. He clenched his fists and said in a sonorous and forceful voice, Chi. A cold snort sounded beside him, and then Namu Qiu's deep and pleasant voice sounded. You want to win against this prince? Dream on. Namu Qiu sat on his horse and laughed proudly. Chapter 648. Chu Xiaobai turned his head and looked in Namu Qiu's direction. Although he couldn't see, he forcefully opened his eyes and stared at the other side. Your Highness, why don't you pretend that you don't understand my West Chu language anymore? Why don't you use your pug-like translator as a mouthpiece? He said in a cold voice filled with sarcasm. Humph, what does a trivial West Chu language count for? This prince's status is noble. It's not that I don't know how to speak, it's that I disdain speaking your West Chu language. When Namu Kuo's voice fell, Chu Xiao Bai's body began to tremble with anger. The other side was simply too arrogant, being arrogant to the extreme. At this moment, he really wanted to charge forward and slap the other side in the face, teaching this mouth of his that couldn't spit out ivory. He heard Namu Kuo's voice ring out again. I'll tell you the truth. Not only is this prince proficient in the 4 languages, I can also write in the 4 languages. Can you? Just based on you want to win against this prince? This prince will make you piss your pants in a bit. Namu Kuo arrogantly raised his chin. His eyes were covered with a black cloth, so he couldn't see Chu Xiao Bai, but he disdained to look. Of all the men in the world, no one could enter his eyes, because no one was more outstanding than him. Chu Xiao Bai used all his strength to suppress his anger. He coldly said, "It's too early to decide who will win and who will lose." He had already made his decision. He had to win this match no matter what. He could not allow this East Qin Crown Prince to be this arrogant. Namu Kuo said with a laugh, "Brat's surname Chu, I don't care if you're Chu Xiao Bai or Chu Xiaoyang. Remember this, Prince. The name Ning is not for you to call. After this match, she will be Tai Bin's woman. I'm afraid you don't know this, but if your West Chu loses, not only will you lose the annual tribute, you will also lose the most beloved woman of you and the Emperor." Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Chu Xiao Bai's face turned livid and his handsome face became twisted with anger. You're speaking nonsense. Whether this prince is speaking nonsense or not, you will naturally know after the competition. This prince is too lazy to talk to you right now. You'll be defeated by me sooner or later. Humph. Namu Kuo turned his horse around and left Chu Xiao Bai's side. Chu Xiao Bai's heart suddenly turned hot and cold, going up and down, but he could not calm down at all. He desperately told himself to calm down, because his opponent was deliberately disturbing his state of mind, making him feel uncertain. In this way, when a match started, he would not be able to concentrate, and he would definitely lose. But hearing Namu Kuo's confident tone, how could he calm down? If he lost, would she lose as well? No, definitely not. Although he was comforting himself, his back was already drenched in cold sweat, and his forehead was dripping with sweat. When he thought about how the outcome of this battle was related to her safety, his heart felt like it was being tormented in a pan of oil. Your Highness the Crown Prince, King Jingyan, are you two prepared? If the two of you are ready, the competition will officially begin. While Chu Xiao Bai was suffering, a eunuch's sharp voice suddenly rang out. Namu Kuo nodded. Chu Xiao Bai gritted his teeth and suddenly said, "Wait a minute." The eunuch was stunned as he asked, "How long does King Jingyan need to wait?" Chapter 649. The eunuch nodded and jumped onto his horse, rushing to the stands to report to Mo Chuan and Empress Dowager Zhou. Mo Chuan and the people in the stands had been paying attention to Chu Xiao Bai's situation the entire time. Although they couldn't see it clearly because they were far away, they could see that Chu Xiao Bai and the East Qin Crown Prince had exchanged a few words. Then Chu Xiao Bai's expression changed, and his body slightly trembled on the horse. Did something happen? What did the East Qin Crown Prince say to Chu Xiao Bai? Everyone's hearts were filled with doubt. Mo Chuan was not assured, so he sent a eunuch over. After hearing the eunuch's report, everyone's hearts became even heavier. The match was about to begin, but King Jingyan's heart could not calm down. They did not even need to fight, and they were already going to lose. Mo Chuan knit his brows. He could almost guess the reason for this. In this world, there was only one thing that could make Chu Xiao Bai feel unsettled. It was a person. Ninger. At this moment, are you still all right? His eyes looked into the distance outside the field as his heart skipped a beat. Asterisk Xiaoru, let's go. Chen Ning turned her head from the bronze mirror and revealed a sweet smile to Xiaoru. Suddenly, the smile on her face froze. Her eyes opened wide as she stared at the person who had suddenly appeared in the room. That person's hand was grabbing Xiao Ru's neck. Xiao Ru's little face turned purple, and she couldn't say a word from being choked. He stood tall and wore a luxurious purple robe with a jade belt around his waist. His face was flawless like beautiful jade, his body tall and slender, and his eyes were jet black and deep, faintly flickering with light. He looked at her without blinking, and his eyes were filled with warm longing and tenderness. That was Chu Xiaoyang. She never would have dreamed that she would see Chu Xiaoyang at this moment. Ning you're so beautiful. His beautiful black eyes gently looked at her, and he revealed a faint smile at her. His expression was gentle, and his voice was also gentle. It was like a warm spring breeze that blew into the room, but Chun Ning suddenly felt a chill down her spine. Seeing him, her mind couldn't help thinking back to the scene in the horse carriage. Like a wild beast, he pressed her against the car and tore her clothes apart. His calloused fingertips slowly wandered over her skin, caressing it. Zhui Feng. She immediately gave a cold shudder and shouted out. But no one responded. Zhui Feng's figure did not even appear. Are you looking for Zhui Feng? There's no need to look for him. He's lying on the roof like a salted fish, sunbathing. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a smile. He pointed at Xiao Ru's acupuncture point and threw her to the ground. Chen Ning wanted to help Xiao Ru. Chen Ning wanted to help her, but Chu Xiaoyang grabbed her wrist. Ninger, I haven't seen you in a few days, but you're still as beautiful as before. No, you're even more beautiful than before. Chu Xiaoyang looked at her in a daze, not willing to look away from her face. Her face was as red as a peach blossom in March. He dreamed of her almost every night. He had missed her for 8 whole years. Chu Xiaoyang, how did you come in? This is the eldest princess palace, not your King Dingyuan palace. Let me go. She stared at him with eyes filled with hatred. She forcefully pulled back her wrist, but the pain made her suck in a cold breath. What happened to your hand? Are you injured? Who hurt you? Tell me. Chapter 650. What happens to me has nothing to do with you, she said in a cold voice. You are my princess. Whoever hurts you is equivalent to hurting me. Tell me, who is it? I want to cut off their head. Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face turned dark, and his eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. Chu Xiaoyang, I said it has nothing to do with you. Let me go. Her eyes were filled with caution as she looked at him. Ninger, why are you afraid of me? I won't hurt you. You're the woman I love the most in my life. My heart will ache even if you lose a single hair. So how could I harm you? Why can't you be like before and gently smile at me? Chu Xiaoyang revealed a trace of sadness on his face. His heart had always ached for her, but she had never seen his heart. Seeing her evasive and disgusted eyes, he would rather it be like before. Although she hated him back then, she would still smile at him. But now, he had never seen her smile again. Just now, when she turned around and smiled sweetly, it was like the sunlight that broke through the dark clouds, instantly illuminating his gloomy heart. Although it wasn't to him, he was still filled with joy. Chu Xiaoyang, what do you want to do here? Chen Ning bit her lips. She knew that she couldn't rely on anyone right now. The only one she could rely on was herself. It was almost time for the East Qin and West Chu competition. And Mo Chuan, Chu Xiaobai, and the eldest princess should be in the eastern field at this time. No one would have thought that Chu Xiaoyang would appear here and no one would come to save her. Therefore, she quickly calmed down and told herself to calm down. If she was facing a beast that wanted to eat people, then she must not anger him and arouse his bestial nature. I want to bring you to see someone. Chu Xiaoyang saw that she was no longer resisting him, and his heart filled with joy. What person? You'll know when you see him. This is a very important person. You don't know how much effort I spent to find this person. No, Chu Xiaoyang, I have something important to do right now. After I'm done, I'll go with you to see this person, all right? Let me leave first. Chen Ning calmly looked at him, but her heart was filled with anxiety. If she delayed any longer, it would be past noon, and she wouldn't be able to make it. There's nothing more important than seeing this person. Ning-er, you're injured, so I'll carry you. He raised his arms and lifted her up. I'm not going. Chu Xiaoyang, put me down. She struggled to break free from his embrace. With a pong sound, something fell from her arms to the ground. What is this? An imperial edict? Chu Xiaoyang felt this was strange. With a flick of his foot, the yellow silk fell into his hands. He shook his hand and opened it. When he saw the contents of the imperial edict, he couldn't help but be startled. Then he understood. The lines on his chin tightened, and the veins on his forehead bulged, throbbing. Tell me, what is the meaning? He raised the imperial edict and stared at her without blinking. His eyes were burning with the flames of anger. Chen Ning turned her head, not looking at him and not saying a word. Her heart. He knew. He was this smart. As long as he saw the contents of the imperial edict, he could guess what she wanted to do. What should she do? He would definitely stop her. He would definitely not let her leave. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.